Welcome to Tao of Astrology 3, the third class. And here we have the qualities. Well, that's my old one, remember? My old one. The new one has Sirius up here this time. I relocated Sirius here because when I was studying the Homeric myths, Homer from ancient Greece, they always called her the bringer of seasons. And I was like, okay, you can't just put her in, summer, fall, winter, or spring. Even though she does have that bringing winter into springness, she does have that, like the moon, mothering, nurturing quality. She's the goddess. So Sirius, or Ceres, Demeter's or Greek name, symbolizes the re-emerging of the sacred feminine. So she has to do with women's issues, everything from food, the price of food, and especially grain, so financial markets, agriculture, goddess. Demeter taught us agriculture. In other words, that's the archetypal intelligence in the universe that infused the first human beings with the ability to know that if they put these seeds in the ground and water them and take care of them, they're going to grow into food to nourish us all. So that's why she's up here now.
Oh, she moved.
Yeah, and she even governs food disorders. So you see someone with a strong Sirius that has food disorder problems, and maybe you need to work with Sirius a little bit.
Do we have the new one?
Yeah, you guys have the new one. Yeah, but my main point here is that the Greeks came up with the concepts of the elements, fire, earth, air, water, from watching nature and, just seeing it's hot out, it's wet, it's cold, it's dry, and realizing, like, wow, the combination of moist and hot is air. The combination of hot and dry is the fire element. The combination of cold and dry is earth. And then, of course, moist and cold was water. So this is where they got the elements from thinking about this. So, a lot of books won't tell you about where the elements came from. They just say, there's fire, earth, air, water. Deal with it. Yeah, and it's kind of cool because fire is sort of the spiritual dimension. Good old spirit. Earth is the material, physical dimension, symbolic of. Right? And then water is the emotional or psychological. And then of course air is the mental. So right there we got the whole archetypes of the four ways of being in us. We got bodies, we got hearts, we got minds, and we got spirits. And Carl Jung was fascinated with the archetypes, and he created a system that was similar to this. He called this function thinking. So if you ever study Jungian psychology, there's thinking and feeling, and then there's sensation, which is touching a body would be a sensation. Eating an apple, realm of sensation. And then, of course, he called this intuition. So you got these four ways of being in the world. And the reason we were starting this is because the signs come out of this. Every sign is a fire sign, an air sign, a water sign, an earth sign. Now, implicit in this diagram is that there's a lower heaven and an upper sphere, which is like yin and yang. But then there's a turning, the spiral, the turning together of the yin and yang. They're working together. They're not against each other. They're like cosmic lovers. You can't have yin without yang, And so they're always shifting, flowing between each other like a cosmic dance. And so in here is these three motions of, things coming up out of the underworld or going back in. And then there's the sense of the spiral, the cyclic nature of time. And so when you combine those three ways of motion in the universe with these four elements, guess what you get? 12 archetypes, 12 signs. And so that's where all the signs come from. And so that's what we're going to look at to start with, is just a little bit of that, because it's important to understand. We have the solar system. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's important to understand that. Ooh, she's fast on that thing. The way I like to see it is that at the beginning of the universe, you have, I call it eternal being. That's my symbol. A little metaphysics here to start off. Eternal being. Call it whatever you want to call it. Tao, God, Allah. They always have the ah sound in it. Ah, om, om. So whatever that eternal spirit, infinite intelligence that we know guides the universe is here, that's my symbol for it, because you got infinity and then the circle of spirit. So infinite spirit.
Didn't you have an infinity with a dot for beings?
Yeah, well actually I have that in my new book, the Tao of Astrology I'm coming out with. I have a symbol for each of the houses I downloaded these symbols for the houses.
Nice.
Instead of having the 12th house, and you're hinting upon what I have for the 12th house. But we'll get to that. Anyway, eternal being. So when I always meditated on the equation, what is God divided by 2? Like what happened? Okay, if every religion is talking about unity consciousness, and we have unity throughout the universe, well, wait, out here we're in the place of maximum multiplicity. There's like things, and we're all separated, and there's no unity. So, what's this first step? In the Indian tradition, they said, why would God create the universe? And their only thing that they could come up with is that God was a magical child play. So they call it God's play, or Leela. I think it's spelled something like that. I don't know.
For Native American?
No, India. Gandhi / India. Gandhi style Indians.
My pen just ran out.
You need a pen. She needs a pen. We cannot go forth without another pen.
I have a other pen.
Do you have one?
I might.
Okay, I have one in my backpack, top
There might
pocket.
be one. There's like a cup up there. I think I have like.
Here you
Well, you need one. Let me know.
Okay.
Okay, so the Leela. So I always say that God divided by 2 because of Leela. The Leela operator said, okay, and it created these 2 streams of consciousness, which there's the yang, right, and then the yin. Oops. Let's go the other way.
So Leela means child.
It means God's play. It's like the divine is like a little child play, having fun. Okay, so there's these 2 streams in the universe, and one of these streams is called yang, and one is called yin. This is all out of my new book, Tao Astrology. So this is like state of the art. Nobody's seen this stuff. Anyway, yang is the creative awareness of the universe. Creative awareness. In religions, and they've always called this the logos, the divine mind. Whereas the yin, which is always crossed, in patriarchal religions, it usually gets a bad rap, is the Sophia, which is the feminine, the divine feminine. This is like the heart of God, that's the mind of God, And this is more like the fabric of being, the sort of celestial fabric and patterns, the patterning that's in being. Like this can create, but it can't create without a pattern. This is the patterning right here. So you have that. Hey Peggy, come on in.
I have been lost.
Oh, Peggy.
We have another guest from our party the other day.
And to the
Have a chair.
wrong co-op first.
Well, step right up. And this is so we're just talking about a whole class today is about the archetypes, the zodiac, and we're starting with a little metaphysics, saying that the eternal being divided into 2 parts. And you have the creative awareness, the yang. And these are 2 streams of consciousness that flow through the universe. You can meditate on these and tap right into them. And the yin is the fabric, the patterning, the Sophia. The yang is the creative awareness, the logos. In Hebrew, they call this the aleph. Aleph is like is the letter, or alpha in Greek. It's the beginning. It's the one. It's the spirit. It's really nothing able to be anything. So it's like infinite creative potential, right? And they call this one as a letter called mem. The mem, where we get the word memory from, is the water letter. It symbolizes the divine heart of God, the mem, the memory of God. That's why all the memory of where it lives in the cells. When we genetically reproduce, we're taking 2 people and taking their mem core and sewing it together in a DNA strand and creating new beings. That's why the woman has to birth the babies, because women's bodies are a physical expression of this force here. Men can't do it. We're like, we don't know how. And you don't even know how, I mean, women, you don't have to wake up and say, today I'm putting the arm on the baby. You just, that's the kind of knowledge that's just like wisdom, It's realization knowledge, And so that's where that comes from. But anyway, the reason this is important to astrology is that, first of all, every phase has 3 beautiful things. When these guys start circulating, you get this. When they start oscillating, imagine there's one dimension, one root dimension in the universe. And I like to call it the creative void. Now, actually, this is not my symbol for the creative void. I have another symbol. the creative void, is this, with two circles joined at their center. It's called the Vesica Pisces. So that's the symbol, two circles joined, is the symbol metaphysically of light. You know? This is like God saying, let there be light. And this is containing it, so spiritual light. This is the void. The creative void. In the East, the void is different than the West. The Western void in philosophy is like this place of nothingness. But in the Eastern religions, the void is like this pure affirmation of life. It's like this spiritual, charged, potential realm. And so, what happens is all this stuff gets poured through the void before creation can happen. And when these guys start oscillating, I call this rhythmic vibration. So, I was meditating on this equation, what is God divided by 2, for like 7 years. And then finally one day at a coffee shop it said eternal being dissolved into the rhythmic vibration of the two creative streams of consciousness in the universe, yin and yang, gave birth to the creative void, you know, the dimension that creates all dimensions. So, and all signs that are fire signs or air signs have their attunement in yang. All signs that are earth signs, like Pisces Taurus, Virgo, or water signs like Pisces and those guys, are tuned into this yin vibration. Where yang is more active, these guys are more receptive. You know? Doesn't mean they don't do anything. Like my friend Ko Hashiguchi says in the movie, he's like, yin does half of everything. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So basically, even though this one's more silent and invisible, it's still, you couldn't have a universe without patterning and fabric and the feminine, the heart of God, the feeling. But then there's this other force when they get together. And actually, I have a little symbol for it. You know, and this is the force of the third force in the universe, the divine love, the Christ consciousness, right? So, Christ consciousness of divine love. And in Hebrew they have a symbol for this, which is Shin, the S letter. Sh. So this is M, Mem, this is A, the Aleph, and then it's just, these are the three mother letters of the Hebrew language, you know. Shin is cool, like the word for astrologers in their language is Shaf, which is really, they write the other way, they write their A's over here. Sha, and then F is their little P sound. So when they constructed that alphabet, it was like the spirit, this is the letter P, which looks like a little mouth, it symbolizes the archetype of communication. So the spirit communicates through the sacred flames. That's their word for astrologers. Spirit communicating through the sacred flames. Is that cool or what? And then for this one, I already showed you the other day, Aur, where we have the word aura from, Aur, which is Aleph, Vav, Reish, which means spirit fertilizing creation. So this is the symbol for light. This is where Ur comes from, where Abraham came from, the ancient city of Ur, where he was a master astrologer for 75 years before he even went in to start the Hebrews. But anyway, so this is where we get the word Uranus. One of our planets has this name in it. Uranus means heavenly light or heavenly father. So it's funny, if you read the New Testament in Greek, because every time Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven, he says, the kingdom of Uranus, because that was the Greek word for heaven. I was like, wait, so all the Christians are trying to get to the Greek god of heaven? Because Uranus was the sky father. Gaia was the earth mother. You know, same thing here, you know. So, Ur is light. And so, Uranus means, and that's what Uranus is such a fiery planet. It comes in like a lightning bolt, like Prometheus stealing sacred fire. So, what I'm getting at here is that there are three modes of motion in the universe. There's sort of an outward moving flow, which is very yang, you know. There's more of an inward moving flow, which is very yin, right? It's bringing things together inward. And then when you combine these two, there's a spiral consciousness. That's when the universe starts turning. So this spiral consciousness is the flow between them, the dance between them, the cosmic levers. So this is a little bit of metaphysics, but what I want you to know is that these three motions, outward, inward, and spiral, are the crux of universal motion. You know, things can go expand out, things can go inward, and things can spiral, you know, in time or in space. So when you get that these are the modes in astrology, that this is cardinal, that's cardinal, or the outward. I prefer to call it outward, because then you're calling it what it does. Cardinal is just what they call in astrology, so that's the tradition. Let's go with that too. Cardinal, and then this is the fixed. mode where things are coming together, stabilizing foundations. So, which I like to call this the inward mode, because everything's coming inward. The 4 signs that are the inward signs have the honor of being the 4 living creatures before the throne of God: the lion, the bull, the eagle, and the man. The lion is fixed fire. See, fixed fire. Aquarius is fixed air, harnessing the power of the divine mind. Whereas Leo is about harnessing the power of the divine spirit, and then the creative potential of fire. And then fixed earth is Taurus, harnessing the power of nature. And then that's why it's the gardener. And then fixed water would be Scorpio, harnessing the power of emotion, imagination, and the passions, right? And so that's what I'm leading to, is that when you combine these modes, one more mutable. Mutable is the mode of changeability. So it goes with a spiral. So when you combine these 3 modes, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, with these 4 elements, fire, earth, air, water, you get the 12 signs of the zodiac. When you add them together, their unity, I was just talking about their multiplicity. 3 times 4 is 12, right? But when you add them together, 7, you get the 7 rays of the universe that all y'all healers work with. These 7 rays, fire, earth, air, water, spiral, fixed, and mutable, are the same rays that the healers work with, are the same rays that the mystics work with. And so you take a piece of light and cut it into 7 rainbow colors. Each one is radiant to one of these universal principles. These are universal principles. This isn't fire like, I burned myself on the fire. This is the archetype of fire. And actually, we haven't even got to the physical universe yet. Nothing's been poured through the creative void. So that's like the proto-meta archetype of fire. So we're not even at actual fire yet, but we're talking about these are symbols. Remember, symbol comes from symbolos, which means to bind together. So these symbols are instrumental in how God bind the universe together and created everything. But that's why I like to do this metaphysics wrap up front, to show you that these four elements are universal ways of being. And you can actually see the 4 elements in the yin yang symbol. If you have yang over here, yin over here, the dark side yin, the light side yang. Yang, when it sees itself, it's like it's feeling it's fire, Whereas actually it's air, and then when you have this is water. Actually, it's fire and water, and then the seed of yin inside of yang is earth, and the seed of yang inside of air is or yin is the air element. So you got 4 perspectives here if you think about it like that. And these are the 4 perspectives of the universe.
Can you tell us that again?
Yeah. When yang looks at yin, or actually when yang looks at itself, it sees fire, spirit. When yin looks at itself, it's like water, emotion, imagination, You can't have a universe without imagination. When yin sees the seed of yang in itself, suddenly the perspective of air is born. An idea comes into being. It's like, whoa, it's a fire in the water. And then when yang, fire, gets a dose of water in it, this new perspective arises, and we call that earth, the manifestation. And actually, it's the 3rd point of manifestation, when these 3 symbols, the yang, with the positive, the yin, with the more receptive, and then, of course, the yin-yang together, the divine Christ fire of love that permeates the whole universe. When these all get together and manifest and drop through the void, the creative void here, you have the earth element is born. In other words, you can have things. And actually, at this stage in the universe, it's not even a thing yet. It's just it's still in the realm of dreams. It's the realm of archetypes. These are where the archetypes are born. There's an astro-spiritual universe that gets born, and then after that, there's an astrophysical universe that gets born. So the universe is a really cool place if you like to go cosmic journeying through it. And this is what I do in my spare time. So, I'm pretty much inventing a whole new language to describe this. Taking Japanese, Oriental, and taking English with its power of exact description, and taking mathematics with differential equations and all that, and then taking the flow of change in the physical realm, and then taking Kabbalah and astrology and creating this new language that has an east and a west, and an outer mathematics and an inner astrology and Kabbalah. So I'm inventing a whole new language. But these things are important because fire, earth, air, water. We have the outward mode and the inward, which is, like I said, it initiates. These are cardinal signs. the cardinal signs are about activating, initiating, creating, expressing, because they're so expressive, and illuminating. These are the signs that start the seasons, right? You have, what are the seasons? You know, you got, well, Aries starts the spring, right? And then Cancer, the archetype of the Great Mother, starts the summer. And then, of course, Libra. This marker went downhill quick. Libra starts the fall. And, of course, Capricorn starts the winter. So they're starters. They're initiators. People with a lot of cardinal energy in their chart are great at getting things going, you know? They're the initiators. If they don't have a lot of fixed in their chart, inward, they might not be able to keep it going. It's the fixed signs that buckle down and keep things going. And the sheet that you want to look at for this lesson is this one here, Modes and Elements. She might need a packet. It's in my backpack. Huh? No, it's in my backpack.
Oh, you
I
brought
got
it.
extras. So, anyway, that way you can write. It's good to write these down to learn them. Activating. Oh, I actually changed one of them. This one I changed to generating.
Oh, I have one already.
So activating, generating. Because initiating sounds the same as activating. You know, I wanted a new word that gave a new meaning. You know, and that's what these. I meditate on these. This is generating. When you go back to my book and look at my book, you'll see there's only 3%. So this has been developing. You know, so this is like the next wave is coming. Anyway, so when you have what we're aiming towards is when you combine the cardinal mode with one of these elements, you're going to get images. You know, Aries is activating, but fire is essence. So Aries is about activating your essence, generating vitality, creating identity. The key word for Aries in all astrology books, the little keyword is I am. Just like Taurus is I have. Gemini's I know. Those little cheat keywords for the archetypes. But think about it. Creating identity. I am a person. Aries is the archetype of just coming into being, like coming out of the oceanic primordial waters for the first time and going, I am. You're not one with all that unity consciousness anymore, floating around with God. You're like a being. That's why the sun is that symbol of amness in a way. A dot in the center, a point of spirit manifest. To be an ego, and I know ego has a negative connotation in our culture. It used to didn't, but it does. But you're on a journey here. You're on a journey, and what did God say? Life is good. So think of ego as enjoy a good experience. No. We gotta think of a better acronym than that. Experience a good oval. I haven't thought of one, but some people say it means edge God out. But hey. But anyway, that's the cardinal mode. So what I'm trying to get you to do is be able to see this stuff. Oh, some better markers, cool. Because if you can see this stuff, if you can see this as a movement, as archetypes, when we get to when you talk about Aries, most books you read about Aries is like, Aries is assertive. Well, why is Aries assertive? Because it's outward moving fire. You know what I mean? So you get why Aries is the archetype of the warrior, the leader, the initiator, the daredevil. Because it's the way that it moves, just the way it moves in spirit. You know why Taurus is the builder? Because Taurus is inward moving earth. It's like, it's like earth coming together. You just see it. That's why it's the builder. It's the nature lover. Why is Gemini the messenger? Well, it's spiral moving air. Whoosh, it's like get all this ideas going out to the universe. When we look at Gemini, you get that it's about seeking awareness, adapting ideas, evolving thoughts, demonstrating concepts, distributing knowledge. That's what Geminis do best. She's a Gemini. You're always talking. How many times do you talk on the phone every day?
How long is the transition period, like from one sign to the next?
Oh, depends on the planet.
Does it just happen in a moment, or is it like?
Oh, what you're saying is the cusp. Okay.
The cusp.
What she's saying is, okay, when there's a sign,
Because those
right,
are such extreme.
and you have a planet like the sun coming into the sign, how long is the transition into there? Well, the transition is when the sun gets to 0 degrees and 0 minutes of that sign. That's the transition. So, right, like if the sun's going into Aries from Pisces, and I've seen little children, little 3-year-olds born with 0 degrees, 0 minutes Aries rising. And then I go look at it and say, okay, let's see if these little Pisces. No, man, he's the maximum warrior. This kid's like Bam Bam over there. Bam Bam! You know? And I was like, wow, the 1st degree of Aries rising. And so, when it gets in that sign, it's in that sign. Although they call it a cuspal situation, when a planet's on the cusp, there's 2 situations. If it's before the cusp, you know, imagine you're a baby in the womb, you're like, I'm going to be an Aries. I'm going to be an Aries. Oh, I'm a Taurus. You know, 29 degrees. So there's this feeling of like, oh, I got left out. I thought I was going to be. But no, you know, you became at the last degree. So they call this a borderline case. You're a borderline case. And what it means is that you have this feeling of like you want to be an Aries. And actually, the first year of your life, you progress into being an Aries. Because the sun moves 1 degree per year of your life. So as a little 2-year-old, you're like, hey, I'm an Aries. You know? And then for 30 years, you integrate that archetype. So you can always see when the sun shifts sign, just count how many degrees to the next sign, and that's what year you're shifting to the next sign. Like my sun was pretend this is Aquarius, my sun was at 16 degrees Aquarius. So in 14 degrees, 14 years, my sun, by progression, moved into the sign of Pisces, because I'm Aquarius, down here. So it went boop. At my 14th year, because 14 degrees, I was supposed to have Pisces experiences. Well, what is Pisces? You know, the archetype of the mystic, the poet, the visionary, the dreamer. Well, at 14, I started writing poetry. I started having all these visions about the universe. I had all these visions back at 14. I'm just now getting to understand them. You know, back then it was just like coming at me, and I was like, I couldn't get it. You know, but now I get it. And so, but man, Pisces just kicked in. I started writing fantasy novels, total escapism through role-playing games. I used to have friends over like this, around the table, every night, and we'd be going on adventures, create all these mythic characters, and I would do the people's charts that would play in the game, and what happened to their character in the game reflected what was going on in their life. And I could guide them through their character in the game by telling, like, you know, looking at their charts. They were like, whoa, this is bizarre. But yeah, I totally entered the archetypal universe at that age. So, anyway, when a planet's at 1 degree of a sign, it's kind of like, it's like, you know, you've been going along and you're like, I'm gonna be a Pisces, I'm gonna be a Pisces, and then you're like, no, I'm an Aries. So there's a little feeling of nostalgia, like, I kind of want to go back and be a Pisces. I want to climb back into the womb, you know, because Aries is about like, I am, and Pisces is about being a universal, you know, current of like inspiration and connected to the unity consciousness. So this is like Pisces in the 12th house is like the experience of being in the womb. They always say that your planets in the 12th house, before they said it, describes your experience of being in the womb. I had Jupiter, Neptune, and Mars in my 12th house. Mars is a very hot planet. Jupiter's big, expansive journey, and Neptune's imagination. Well, my mom, from my report I got from her, she said the whole time she was pregnant with me, my mom's a big lady, so I had a lot of room in there. She's 6 foot, you know, and I was like, cool. And had a lot of room to move around. She read fantasy books and stories the whole time. So I was like hearing all these stories in there. Now I'm a storyteller. And then Mars, she said she craved hot sauce the whole time. She was like, I can get that hot sauce. But, so yeah, you know, so the 12th house describes your womb-like experience. Some people have Saturn in there. They're like, it was too tight in there. Maybe their mom was too small and they felt like they were being crushed or something.
Saturn.
I had one kid whose parents smoked, and they had Pluto in there. You know, it's like so they were feeling like smoke energy come down the pipe, come down the chimney. But yeah, so there's a section in my book where I talk about that borderline case.
So
Yeah.
each sign is 30 degrees.
Yeah, 30 degrees.
Okay, so the degrees of the sign of the houses. So
Yeah. So each sign, that's what we're getting at today, is that when you take the anatomy of a sign, you have these little markers called degrees. Like if I go 5 degrees, and then you got little degrees like that, right? Well, each degree is a very symbolic place. And each 10 degrees is called a decan. The decans are just important. They give the next level. These little 10 degrees segments talk about what's happening on the psychological level, emotional level. Psychological or emotional level. Basically the plane of desire, the astral plane. So these if your son's in, let's say like my son's in Aquarius, right? Well, the first 10 degrees of Aquarius is the Aquarius decan. So there's a psychological astral thing behind the first 10 degrees of Aquarius that even makes you more Aquarian because you have a desire to help humanity. But the second 10 degrees is Gemini, and the last is Libra. So every sign has 3 little decans, 3 little 10-degree segments. Yeah. And so me, being that my sun is at 16 degrees Aquarius right here, I'm in the Gemini decan of Aquarius. So I'm an Aquarius humanitarian who's also a storyteller, teacher, writer. See, there's another, that's where my desire is coming from, because that's coming from the astral realm. And then you got this other level where you divide the zodiac into little 2.5 segments. If you take all 12 signs and put it into here, starting with Aquarius first, and then Pisces, and then Aries, and then Taurus, and then Gemini, going all the way up to, let's see, what's the sign for? Up to Capricorn. Each little 2.5 degree piece is called a dwad. So this is a finer thing, and a dwad shows where things are coming from the spiritual level. You know, from the pure realm of divine mind potential. That realm I was talking about with all the metaphysics. So like on that level, my sun falls actually in the area of Aquarius that's devoted to Cancer. So I'm an Aquarian. My sun sign's in Aquarius, but it's in the second 10 degrees, which is the other air sign of Gemini. Oh, and to find out which sign governs the degree, you just go to the next sign of that same element. So the next sign would be Gemini. And then to find out the last, you go to the next sign of that element. And it's Libra.
So what were the 3?
Oh, so it's not
desire,
always
astral,
No.
psychological.
No, it's not always Gemini. It's the air signs.
It's like spiritual.
You take the 3 air you take the 3 air signs, the 3 fire signs, the 3 water signs, and the 3 earth signs, and then you map them to this. And the first one's always the sign you're in. The next one's always the next sign of that element, so Gemini. And the next one's Libra, or in this case Libra, is there. If you go to Libra, the first 10 degrees is Libra. The next 10 degrees is what? Go to the next sign.
Aquarius.
Yeah, Aquarius. And then the last 10 degrees would be over here. So, for instance, the last few degrees of Libra are Gemini. But if you go look at Gemini, the first 10 degrees of Gemini are the Gemini decan. The next 10 degrees would be the Libra decan. And then the last 10 degrees is the Aquarius decan. Which is funny, it's Christina, when I met her, her sun's in 29 degrees Gemini. So she's a Gemini, but her sun's in the Aquarian decan. You know? And so, sun always governs like life companion, male life companion, especially the woman's chart. So she's like, wow, you got Aquarius and Gemini going. I said, I sure do. I'm an Aquarius and a Gemini decan. So,
Can you do that again?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
each sign.
Let's do yours. What are you, a Capricorn?
Cancer.
Okay, you're a Cancer.
So each 10-degree segment is a decan.
Yes.
And
Each
that's
10.
okay. So
Yeah,
and does that represent something?
Deca.
Okay.
Means 10. Huh?
And the first 3 decans represent something
Yeah,
specifically?
all decans represent how the energies are coming down into the zodiac from the desire plane.
All
You know,
represents it.
yeah, it's a metaphysics thing. Okay, the divine mind is where it all happens, at the unity consciousness level, and that's the sort of the intentions of the divine. And then when you're floating out there in that realm and you get one of these ideas, and then you lock onto it, you attach to it, it becomes a desire. If you act on that desire, it goes down to that experiential level. So these are these 3 levels that things come in, you know. And so, like for her, if she's a Cancer, right? What degree is your Cancer sun?
The sun's 12.
12. Okay. So okay, she's at 12. So there's 10, 20, 30. So 12 would be right there. So what's coming in from the desire plane? What's the archetype? Well, yeah. So this is Cancer. The next water sign would be Scorpio, because the next one is Pisces. So you got this. The middle degrees of Cancer is a Scorpio decan. So on the desire astral level, like what you really desire and want and need psychologically, you know, you're a Scorpio. Your life purpose, yes, is to be a healer, but to come from a place of alchemy, transmuting the lead of the lower self or the gold of the higher self, Scorpio stuff. So it's like you're a deeper Cancer than most Cancers, or than 2/3 of Cancers. And of course, Pisces would be there.
In the beginning of Scorpio, if I'm 3 degrees Scorpio, then that's still Scorpio? That's like
Yeah.
Scorpio.
Yeah, on the desire level, but not the Dwad, because the
That
Dwad.
explains everything.
Okay, check it out. If you're a Scorpio, and you're in the Scorpio decan, like 3 degrees, remember the Dwads only change every 2.5 degrees. So if you were right at 2 degrees Scorpio, it'd be Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. It'd be an intense one. But then the next sign of the Scorpio is Sag, right? So your sun at 3 degrees is, yes, on the experiential level you are Scorpio. You're here to manifest in your life purpose the archetype of change and rebirth and all the rewords: regeneration, recycling, renewal. And on the desire plane, you're doing that too with your emotions, your heart. However, on the higher spiritual plane, you're a Sag, you're a wanderer, you're a gypsy, you're a traveler, you're going to rainbow gathering. Woo! So you're following your cosmic intelligence of your sun sign there. So really there's 3 levels to every planet in the chart.
Wow, that's so
Yes.
19 degrees.
Go ahead, Peggy.
Dwad, or whatever you call
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that before. I know about that.
It's actually an Indian term. It's like Dwada Shamarsa or something, but I just, we always put it down as
That
Dwada.
starts out in the same as your sun sign and moves through
Yeah. The Dwad too.
each sign.
Yeah, the Dwad 2 starts off the same as your sign, like this
And
would
every
be.
2.5, it
Yeah,
changes. and
every
same
2.5
10
degrees.
with the other one.
Yes. It's very fascinating when you look at your progressions with this. Because like my progress midheaven, when I started making the film, went into a Pisces zone in Scorpio. So it suddenly shifted into Pisces, and I was like making films like crazy. And then when I actually finished the film and got it in the editing phase, I was in a new beginning. It was like went into Aries. So by progression, because progressions things move real slow, like 1 degree a year. So you can watch what your Dwads are, your 12 divisions, and then your decans. When people shift decans, they shift into a whole new 10-year phase of their life. When they shift Dwads, they move into a new little 2.5-year phase. Yeah,
So the wads,
by progression.
2.5 degrees, it starts with the sign, right?
Yeah.
Or does it go through all 12?
All 12, yeah.
Okay.
You always know the last one is always the sign before the sign you're talking about.
Okay.
So like if this is Scorpio, then this would be Libra.
So that would end with Libra.
Yeah. So you don't have to count to find out like if something's here. You just go if one's like say like at 21 degrees right here, 4 back, 1, 2, 3, 4. You just go to this side and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer. And you go, oh, Cancer. So they're easy to spot once you're used to spotting them. This is advanced astrology, and I wasn't meant to go there, but I kind of wanted to throw that out. That's because I always wondered about that when I read about it in books. What are these decans about? What are these Dwads about? How do the ancients use them? That's how they use them.
So basically 30 degrees is experiential.
Yes.
10 degrees
Archetypal.
is
Experiential.
Yeah. And 2.5 degrees is...
Yes.
So
The
would
Dwads
15
are from the
degrees would be
spiritual.
like your opposite?
What?
Would 15 degrees be your opposite?
Yeah, in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 degrees would be the opposite. She's saying at the middle of the sign, it would be the opposite sign. Like in the middle of Aquarius, you got Leo, right? So
That's where my Virgo thing comes in. I couldn't find Virgo in my chart. I married a Virgo, and it didn't work out well, but I have this perfectionist thing.
So 19 degrees Libra is in the Aquarium.
let's do another example. 19 Libra, right? Here's Libra. Yeah, the 19th degree will be right before 20. So you're in this decan, this is Libra, so the next sign from Libra would be Aquarius, right? Yeah, so you're in the Aquarius. Last degrees of Libra would be the Gemini. So, okay,
So is it always Earth or what? Like on mine, you did the next water sign
Yeah.
and the next.
yeah, it's always the same element
Okay.
because they're a family. They're a family. They belong together. Okay, so for this one, so like look at this. If this is Virgo before Libra, so the last degree here would be Virgo. So you just go back. If you want to find what that one is, 19 degrees, you just go Virgo, right? What would be for Virgo? Leo. What would be for Leo? Cancer, right? Before Cancer, Gemini, and then you go back to the next sign, Taurus. And it's Taurus. So whoever you are, you have Taurus as your spiritual sort of vibration coming down. That's in terms of what we're talking about, the sun? Is it the sun sign? Sun sign? Yeah, so this is your life purpose and vitality. On the spiritual level, gets fed from going out in nature and having that sense of like communion with nature and having a relaxation and serenity and peace and all the images of Taurus, right? But on a desire plane, you're here to help humanity. So your emotions are all caught up in like, I'm going to revolutionize the world. There's a rebel in you, even though you're a piece of Libra on the experiential hour, though. So it's just finer differentiations,
So this is going to be an advanced class.
Yes.
Is that what I heard?
Yes, this is going to be an advanced class. Yeah. But anyway, back to the modes and elements. Okay, so
So I don't have to worry about memorizing.
no, but it's fun to look at, Okay, so anyway, inward.
You're stuck in there.
the inward mode is when energy is moving inward, right? Everything's coming to center. So the 4 signs that deal, or the fixed, is what they call them in the tradition, because they're the power signs. Remember the 4 living creatures for the line of, for the throne of God were the Taurus, the bull, Leo, the lion, Scorpio, which was actually the image of the eagle, or the firebird, the phoenix, in Egypt and Babylonia, way before it became the scorpion. And then you have Aquarius, the cosmic man. So you have these 4 signs. And the cool things about these signs is that the ancient world hung on this axis. Why? Because there's 4 great stars in these signs. There's Aldebaran in Taurus. There's Regulus in Leo. There's Fomalhaut in Aquarius.
What are those?
These are the 4 royal stars of ancient Persia.
Oh.
And then there's Antares in Scorpio, heart of the scorpion. So if you have a planet conjunct Antares, man, the sort of obsessiveness, but also the intense power of Antares, the eagle, is part of your nature. Like I have Mars conjunct Antares in the sky, so it's like, whoa! That's why on the football field I was unstoppable, because I had Mars Antares. But so you have Aldebaran. So those are the 4 ancient royal stars of Persia that the ancient axis hung on, and that's why in the Bible they call the 4 living creatures for the throne of God, with the lion, the bull, the eagle, and the man.
Oh.
So.
Can you say those? I can't read. Of course, the R and the F.
Oh, Regulus. Sorry. I was trying to write it without writing it. Regulus. And, it was like a little footnote.
Mine works faster than his hands.
Yeah. Oh, Formal. Formalhaut.
Now what is that?
That's a star in Aquarius.
I mean, what kind of an animal?
This is the cosmic man. This is the Aquarius.
Oh,
the man.
Oh, the Aquarius.
The guy pouring the picture out. The joke about Aquarius is that because they're so detached mad scientists that they found a pitcher full of water, emotion, and they're like, what's this stuff? Anyway, so these ones are about penetrating. These are the key words for fixed. Penetrating, right? Harnessing. You get down in there and then you harness what you find, right? So you got penetrate right here on the list. And then concentrating, utilizing, and empowering. Concentrating. Now you see, these aren't just randomly put up here. These have a flow. Empowering would be the third one.
It helps me remember. It's alright. It does.
Yeah. Writing is always better. No matter how good your memory is, paper is better. Okay, so what happened? Okay, remember the cardinal. First you activate something, then you generate energy for that, then you get to create with that energy, and that leads you into expressing it, and then you're illuminating the truth. See how they flow? I thought about these a long time, how to line them up. Penetrating. You penetrate down in there, and whatever you find, that power, you harness it, right? And then concentrate it, and then you use it, and then you're empowered through it, So the fixed signs, the power signs, they're the strength signs, So look at Taurus, look at Leo, the lion, Look at Scorpio. Nobody's going to call a scorpion wimpy. Aquarius, we're strong in the mind because they're harnessing the power of air, which we're going to get to air, is awareness, ideas, and thought. So they're harnessing different things. Taurus is harnessing earth, nature, the druid. Leo's harnessing the fire, so he's utilizing fire, vitality. That's what performers do. They utilize vitality. That's why Leo's the silent performer. And then, of course, Aquarius is about empowering ideas and concepts, or concentrating those. You can never get an Aquarian to change his mind, because concentrated, fixed thoughts. They're like, once they figure it out, that's it, You have to bust them over the head to get them to think different. And then Scorpio is about what? Fixed water. So try to change a Scorpion's heart. It's like once they feel a certain way, it's like that's how they feel. You ain't changing that, because this is fixed water. Yeah. Yeah. Fixed water, ice, exactly.
Revenge.
So, anyway, let's go do the mutables now. Just to get through this. It's fun to see this because you're learning the zodiac. This is the way the zodiac was sort of given to me, in a sense of how it moves, So let's do the spiral, or the mutable signs. These are the educational signs, the mutable. They might not be as strong as the cardinal and the fixed, but they are the best at learning, And actually, our society has a the main thing that's wrong with it, if you look at the 4 mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces, is that we start off in elementary school learning our reading, writing, arithmetic, learning how to communicate and do that, right? And head knowledge. And what happens is we go straight to college after we get out of our 4 years, 12 years of school, and we go get these higher degrees, and we've skipped Virgo, the archetype of the mentor. We've skipped, we have all these people with all these advanced degrees that don't know how to do a skill. So when you eliminate Virgo from a society, the phase of apprenticeship and mentoring before college, then you automatically eliminate its opposite, Pisces. And so the society starts having a spiritual decadence in it because we can't get to here, you know. Like me, I started learning all this stuff as a kid, and then I learned at 14 I could have an apprenticeship with an astrologer, which led me to college. When I got to college didn't have anything to teach. I dropped out with a 4.0 in astrophysics. I was like, you guys don't have nothing to teach me here. I'm trying to invent this new language, and where's the book on that, you know? So I got to teach them, you know? And so now I feel like I've been in college since, you know, after I left college, I went on the journey and, of course, explored all this stuff. And now, because I went through this phase, now I'm getting that spiritual insight. The stuff I've been showing you guys is like I got to this stage. You know, and there's a cycle and all this, that, and the other. But these signs are the educational signs. They're mutable. They flow. And life is a process. You know, Aries might be an outward sign. Taurus might be a Gemini, a fixed sign. But they're a little set too. Because in life, you take action, you take responsibility for that action, and then you learn from it, and then you start again. You know? So there's a threefold cycle in life. It's just like doing something, and then solidifying it, and, you know, taking responsibility for it, and then learning from it and growing. You know? Like me making the movie. I just went for it, did it. And then I solidified it into form, and then I learned from it. And now, like, my next movie's going to be better. Better, better, better. You just do it. Most people in this culture are so afraid of failure that because we live in a fast food restaurant kind of thing, where people just want, like, their hamburger and go. And so people try something and they fail once and they give up. You know, they're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I knew it, you know. Whereas the failure is actually the key to the success. Because you got to fail like 9 times out of 10 before you know how to do it right. And then you do it and everybody's like, whoa, overnight success. Yeah, after 10 years of sweat, blood, and tears, you know.
You said take action. What was the middle one?
Take action, take responsibility, and then grow and learn from it, you know. That's just the natural cycle of science. That's what the modes teach us. If anything, the modes teach us about the natural threefold act that life happens in. And you see that in everything from the Greek plays, you know, Act 1, and then Act 2, and then Act 3 is where you get the ahas. You're like, aha, you know, the realizations of everything the story's been building up to then, you know. It's kind of cool. So here's the mutable signs. You know, Gemini is a storyteller. Virgo is the wise mentor. You know, they're inner retentive as hell, but they're wise. And Geminis are tricky as hell, but they got a good story to tell. I always say you can be a great liar or a great storyteller. And then, of course, they'll even lie to themselves and then pretend that they didn't, and then talk to the phone as if like they were talking to someone else that heard that they lied. Anyway, they got all these parts, right, Christina?
Yeah.
Gemini, Virgo. Sagittarius is the philosopher. You see? Growth. Learning. And then, of course, I mean, look at the word sage. Right up front. And then, of course, the last one is spiritual knowledge, Pisces, the mystic, the poet, the dreamer. So this is the water form of learning, emotional absorption in the divine, you know? Whereas, like, Sagittarius is like that philosophical quest for truth through the religion. It's like absorption in the fire of the divine. Whereas Virgo is about absorption in the earth. See, for Virgo's very zen. Virgo's like, the greatest spiritual truths are in the most simple acts. Drink a glass of water and it's God pouring God into God. You know? It's like, through sacred service, that's the divine. That's why when Jesus came, he said, you know, he came at the beginning of the age of Pisces to teach the lessons of Pisces Virgo. Universal love, Pisces, through service to others. Divine imagination through craftsmanship and devotion. You know, so that's the age we're in. Anyway, Gemini is mental, the mind of the, you know, when a writer goes to a coffee shop and writes and sits before the blank page, it can be terrifying, you know. But when you absorb yourself in the mind of the divine and you just let images and ideas come to you and let them mix. It's like, I go to the coffee shop and I kind of, people think I'm weird, but I just sit in the corner and rub my hands together and just open up and let this divine like mana feed me, come down from the heavens, and then I start writing a letter. I call it my letter to God, and by the end of the letter, at the bottom, I just know exactly what project to work on. I'm like, that's what I write my way into finding where the inspiration is. And then I always bring like several projects. I'm always working on I got 50 projects, and then I can only work on like 20 at a time. But then I can only have 5 sitting out around the house at the time. And so I kind of just go between them, and I cycle back around, But some people are weird that way. So spiral. Spiral's about seeking, evolving. Or am I out of order here? Adapting, yeah. Well, I changed evolving. See, I'm going back to my old keywords. I changed, because adaptation, evolution. See, you get where I went with that? Adapting. Next. Seeking, adapting. Yeah, then evolving. Is it?
That's the way it is on here.
Yeah. Evolving.
Reading.
Yeah, evolving. Then is it distributing?
Demonstrating.
Yeah, then you demonstrate. Then you distribute. I've been mixing my words up here lately. And then you distribute. Distribute. Now, here's the thing. See, okay, let's take Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. So it's seeking what's air, the first word. You don't have to take the first one, but you know, awareness. And then seeking awareness. That's what Geminis are full of this insatiable curiosity, like hunger for knowing. So they're seeking awareness. And then the next, you have adapting what? Ideas. Yeah. So they're always like, ooh, we could take this, we could do that, and we could do this. And then evolving thoughts, and then these thoughts start evolving to a bigger level. And then bam, demonstrating concepts. You're like, here I am, just demonstrating a concept. And then distributing knowledge. Write a book, get it out there. That's what Geminis do best. It's like Tigger. That's what Tigger does best. But it's Gemini in this case. And my moon's in Gemini, so I have the soul of this. Wherever your moon is, that's what you do. That's what you need to not get depressed. If you ever get depressed, just go look on your chart and see where your moon is, and go do that. And then you'll never be depressed again. Because your moon, your heart is being fed with imagery. Like, I just have to read a book, play a game, do something Gemini, talk, teach a class, and then I'll feel emotionally centered, Because remember, the sun is about vitality and life purpose, and the moon is about emotional contentment or inner peace. So if you ever want inner peace, you got to go have a talk with your moon, and especially the progressed moon, which we're going to talk about in class 7. But basically, the progressed moon is the movement of the moon. It takes 27.3 years to go around your chart, and the progressed moon shows the mood of your soul. It says what you need right now. I mean, the moon for your life is what you need all the time. But there's also this other part that's hungering for something. The moon governs Cancer, which governs the stomach. So I call the progressive moon the stomach of your soul. It's like, I'm hungering for something. If it's in Pisces, it's hungering for spiritual knowledge for 2.5 years. It takes 28 years to go around, so it takes about 2.5 years per sign. So the progressive moon by sign is always hungering for that sign. And when a client comes, you look right to the progressive moon, because that'll tell you what they need to feel emotional contentment. Usually when people come, they're all out of sorts. Not always. Some people just want to know their chart because they're curious, But most times they're having a problem of some kind, and you're there to counsel them and help them through it. And so one of the best things you can do is point to that progressed moon and say, your progressed moon is in this sign and it's in this house, and it's making a square to Uranus. Maybe you need some weirdness in your life. Shake things up. So you can suggest ways of feeding that moon by progression. But yeah, so the moon's inner peace. So that's a little side trick again.
And it moves a sign every 2.5 years?
Yeah, the progressive moon. Yeah. Starts off in your birth sign. 2.5 years later, it goes to the next sign. Just goes around. When you're 27.3, bam, it comes right back to where it was when you were born. That's when you have the first glimmerings of the Saturn return at 30. Because the progressive moon comes around and says, okay, this is your emotional Saturn return. This is your restarting the button of your emotional field. So 27 to 28, people go through this emotional tearing down and getting ready to rebirth. Christina's going through it, right?
Yeah.
She's 28. She just went through it. She's like, God, it's been a tough year. Do you feel like something in you's dying?
Yeah.
I mean, you also have Pluto opposing your Sun and squaring your Moon, so you got a double, triple whammy.
Yeah, I have like a double, quadruple.
Yeah.
Death,
Yeah.
dying, burning,
Yes.
on fire.
Exactly, all that stuff. You see the she let me read her journal today. I was really going like, dang, girl. I said, but you know what? That's how I felt 3 years ago. I was going through the same thing when Pluto was opposing my Moon, and I know how it feels to have your soul boiling. You know, it's like, but you know, the universe is getting you ready for something to be able to contain more. But you have to be able to like let go of old self to get to new self. But yeah, so your physical Saturn return won't be fully completed in all else that are coming up on 30 till 29 and a half. Right when 29 and a half strikes, it's like, okay. And then you move into 30 and you're like, okay. The cycle of, like Stephen Ford said in the movie, dreaming your life is done. And now it's time to make the dream real and commit and make a stand in your community and say, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up. I said, I grown up just now.
If your moon is in Cancer and moon is the sign of Cancer, is that like, does it mean more? Like,
Yeah.
Is it more
It's
like
dignified. It's strong there. It's at home. It's in its domicile. It's called technical term. You know. So, and if it's in the opposite sign, it's in a state of detriment. In other words, it's like far away from home and it's lost its wallet and it's freaking out in the foreign land. It's like, So a planet in detriment can either freak out and have a culture crisis, or can decide, I'm going to make this into a great adventure. It's like Venus in Aries. Venus loves to be in beautiful Libra, but when she gets in Aries, she's like that lady on Indiana Jones riding the elephant through India, you know, trying to pour perfume on the elephant. You know, like, remember that lady, the dancer? Yeah, and then next thing you know, she's riding an elephant through India, going, "Why did I get myself?" She's like throwing snakes off of her and stuff. And so that's Venus in Aries for you, the beautiful woman on this dangerous adventure quest, you know. And so so you can make it into a culture shock, or you can make it into a fun adventure. It's all a state of mind with planets in detriment, and then planets in fall are the next step beyond that, worse. Planets in their depression and their worst sign. They're just like Mars in Cancer. Mars is the warrior, and Cancer is the mother. And when Mars is at home in the mother stone, Mars just feels so deflated. All of its fire is put out by Cancer's water. It's like the last 5 months. You know, Mars was retrograding in Cancer. We spent 5 months there all Christmas. So everybody, and then look how the economy with the home market, depression. It's just been hopefully we're coming out of that now. Now Mars is in Leo.
How do you know when a planet's in fall?
Okay, every planet has a point of where it's in its fall. Check this out. You guys weren't here for the first class, so I'll just have to pop it up here, okay? But it's good to review it. Right, you got these 12 divisions, right? Okay, so here's Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. I'll move out of the way when I get done. Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. Oops, that's Virgo more. Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius. Okay, so here's the deal. The ancients always gave the sun to Leo and the moon to Cancer. Mainly because these are the luminaries and those are the months when there's maximum amount of light on the earth. At least in the northern hemisphere. They were biased. But, the sun is the royalty of the king, and the sun, and Leo just goes with that, right? In the 12 tribes of Judea, that's the tribe of Judah. That's why they call Jesus the Lion of Judah, because he was born in the tribe of Judah, and that's the lion. When Moses camped in the desert, they put the 12 tribes around the tabernacle in the order of the zodiac. But when they marched through the desert, they marched in reverse direction. Pisces would leave first and go, because that's the direction the ages progress according to the equinox. Yeah. So, and Aaron had his breastplate with the 12 gems. It was like they were like all astrological back then. So here's the sun and moon. So you got Mercury, govern Virgo and Gemini, right? Mercury in its Virgo sense is like practical knowledge, using your hands to carve something, to make a tincture, whatever. Mercury and Gemini is more the mind, like writing a book. Venus and Taurus is more like the sensual goddess. Venus and Taurus is like, let's make some food, have some back rubs, get a massage. Venus and Libra is more like playing the flute as compared to playing a drum over here, or sculpting clay. Venus and Taurus, they have beautiful voice. Paul McCartney had Venus and Taurus. Had a beautiful singing voice, Venus and Libra, that's the love. She's at home there, see? And then you have Mars, of course, governs Scorpio and Aries. Bad Scorpio. Alright. And then, of course, Jupiter governed Pisces and Sag, the two religious signs. This is more the emotional component of religion, where you're just in love with God, Pisces. Jupiter and Sag is more like some philosophers sitting around thinking about, abstract philosophy, But they're codifying the religion with like the 10 Commandments. Check it out, Saturn governed the last two, Capricorn and Aquarius, the past and the future. Aquarius governs the future. So that's the traditional rulerships right there. These are the planets that go with them. So when a planet's in its opposite sign, it's in its detriment. So if Mars was in Libra, it'd be like a warrior with a flaming sword in a china shop going, oh my God, I'm going to break something today. Because he's all like rough warrior, and he's like, oh, got to be graceful. So he feels uncomfortable, just like I talk about Venus being in Aries. Now, the signs of exaltation. Let's do that. Ooh. Well, we'll get to where it comes from, but let's just put them up here. Okay. The sun is exalted in the sign of Aries. Because it's springtime and the sun's coming back out, and it's like, woohoo! It loves being there. That's its exaltation. Exaltation. Which means, it's being exalted, lifted up. It's depression, or that's the ancient term for it. The modern term you'll read in books is it's in its fall. It's depressed. So, when a planet in its exaltation is happy. It's its vacation land. It's its happiest sign to be in. But when it's in the opposite sign, farthest away from its exaltation, that's where it gets depressed.
So Libra.
So Mars the sun is most depressed in Libra. And think about it. The sun is about me, myself, and I as an individual, right? So what happens when it goes into Libra? It says, me, myself, and I defines myself as everybody around me, all my relationships. So it's hard to be an I when you're a Libra. It's like the hardest sun sign to be, because you define yourself by all your relationships. So it's really tough, Just like Mars has a tough time being there too. So if you think about this, you understand how the ancients came up with this. Okay, the moon. The moon loves to be in Taurus. The moon is in Taurus. See the little crescents in there? All through the Fertile Crescent back in the age of Taurus. Because we're right here now, ages. So 2,000 years when Jesus came. 2,000 years, the age of Aries began with Abraham. And then before that. So you have Moses. Actually, Abraham came and then Moses came in the middle of Aries. But back before that, you had all these goddess cultures and fertility. And, in Turkey, they still have the Taurus Mountains. And the city of Tarsus. And all throughout that region, you see these little goddess dolls, clay goddesses, little bellies, and they worship the great goddess. And the thing was,
The Venus of Willendorf.
The what?
Venus of Willendorf.
Okay, yeah.
The most famous.
Yeah. You find those all over the place over in Turkey, in the Fertile Crescent.
It was so terrible for when Moses came down with the 10 Commandments. And they were all like the sign of the ram every day. And they made the golden calf and all that. Was that like going backwards?
That whole story is about the cultural transition between Taurus and Aries. Before that, it was always the sacred bull, back in the Greek times, or even way before that. But it got handed down to the Greeks. But, in India, the sacred cow. They don't eat the cows. They milk them, but they don't eat them. And then Aries, and that's why when Jesus came, it was the age of the fishes. You still see the little Christians driving around with their little symbol there. I'm going to make me one like this. Anyway. We're heading into Aquarius, baby.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get 2 of those little fish signs and have them go in the opposite direction on the Pisces sign.
Yeah, right. It's the true symbol. Yeah. But even the Pope wears that big cap, looks like a fish. The whole age is about this. Jesus feeding the masses with the loaves, the Virgo loaves, and the fishes. So anyway, these are symbols of things. And so, where does Mercury find its exaltation? Mercury's weird. Mercury finds its exaltation in one of the signs it rules, which is pretty bizarre. Yeah, it's exalted in Virgo. Yeah, the sign of analysis. Mercury loves that sign so much. It's confused in Pisces. It's depressed in Pisces. Venus, the planet of love, finds its exaltation in Pisces. So, because you got love in the sign of divine love, it's like, wow, I'm my favorite sign. It's not in the sign of its dignity, rulership, but it has dignity. Moving right along here. Fire, earth, air, water, right? So fire And I'll just write fire and earth and air and water. There was this joke in an astrology book once, and it had these ancient Greek scientists going, what are these, what? One guy was checking out, he wrote fire, earth, air, water on a stone pillar. And this one scientist was looking at him, this ancient Greek sage. He was like, is that it? He's like, and then he goes, you don't get it. That's it. Because the other guy was thinking like, periodic table of elements or something, like magnesium and stuff. But these aren't elements in the physical sense. These are elements in the archetypal sense. And you can see it. Just go to the airport and sit down and watch people go by. And you'll be like, whoa, that's a fiery person. Or you'll see an airy person like over there on their laptop, on their cell phone. They're just real mental. You'll see the watery people going like, I'm gonna miss you. You ever see people who are like, do you have enough money? Did you remember to do this? Did you? And so you can just see people's archetypes coming out. And we're really all 12 strangely mixed. But your sun, your moon, and your rising sign, and the planet that governs your rising sign are where you're strongest. Because those are your big three: the sun, the moon, the rising sign, and the planet that governs the rising sign. Like if you're Aries rising, it's Mars. If you're Taurus rising, it's Venus. If it's Gemini rising, you're Mercury. If you're a Gemini rising with Mercury and Scorpio, it's like, whoa, you're going to be a deeper kind of Gemini rising. You're not going to be the superficial, lighthearted Peter Pan. You're going to tell dark humor jokes. You know what I mean? That's you, did you say? Yeah. Because you get the mind of the sorcerer going down into the intense depths where most people are afraid to go, But you're wired to go there,
Yeah, it's been
it's the mind of you got the mind of the therapist, Scorpionic rebirth. So anyway, fire, earth, air, and water.
Do they match like hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen?
No. What do you mean?
Like the first four elements.
No. They're hydrogen and helium are first, and then lithium is third. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. Carbon is 8.
So, isn't carbon, earth, fire, hydrogen, or?
Well, obviously, I see what you're saying. Like air could be oxygen. Yeah, water could be like
Water.
H2O. It's hard. See, that's what I mean. It's hard to try to do that because you're taking two different things. Like the chemical element table is different than the 4 elements. It's the same word, elements, but they're not the same.
Like poetic versus.
Yeah, like poetic versus scientific.
I forget what in phytochemistry, I think she related them to the.
She related?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And what was the affinity?
I know Earth is carbon.
Affinity
Just like your
is the modern planets: Pluto, Scorpio, Uranus,
that's the modern.
Aquarius, Neptune, Pisces. Yeah, of course, Chiron, Virgo, Ceres, the grain goddess, big asteroid. She's a dwarf planet now. Is Taurus. But yeah, so fire. Look at fire. Fire is right here. Essence. You can really feel that. The essence of something. The fire. The spirit of something. The vitality of something. Vitality is the fire. People with fire have a lot of vitality, right? And they really know who they are. The fire signs. They have a strong identity. And then you go down the list. You got consciousness. Because that kind of strong identity culture is this kind of consciousness. Like Sagittarius is about. It's a mutable sign, so it's about demonstrating consciousness. It's the sign of the philosopher. And then, what do we have as the last one? Is, leading to inspiration. Fire signs always inspire, Unless they're working their shadow signs. Then Aries turns to anger. Sagittarius turns to overindulgence. Leo turns into narcissism. Every sign has a shadow sign. And I'm going to give you some sheets next week. Well, not next week. We're going to have a class next week. Because it's her birthday and it's July 4th. And they're at the Rainbow Gathering. So you guys aren't missing nothing.
Yay!
I'm so happy.
I think it's the country's 232nd.
Oh, wow.
32nd.
232. It's a palindrome.
Your birthday's 4th of July?
That's awesome.
We should be very compatible. I'm 15 degrees of Pisces, so you'd be pretty close.
So imagine this. Okay, fire in the Sagittarian sense would be about mutable fire. So Sagittarius, why is Sagittarius the philosopher, the thinker, the sage? the traveler, the sports person, right? Why? Because they're about seeking your essence. That's what philosophers do. Let's seek our essence. What are we? What are we? You know, evolving or adapting vitality, evolving identity. You're like, who am I? What is the meaning of life? That's what the philosopher asks. So you're asking, like, you know, let's evolve our identity. Let's demonstrate consciousness. Let's distribute inspiration. So Sagittarius, people out of Sag, like myself, with 4 planets in the rising sign, we like to distribute inspiration. You know, this is the Sagittarius is the sign of broadcasting. It's the sign of like just teaching. You know, so that's why those signs are like that. Leo's the same, but Leo, the difference is harnessing. See, penetrating the essence of things, harnessing or utilizing vitality. That's what performers do. They get in that spark of fire and then use that energy. And then, of course, you know, the fixed energy here for that would be concentrated identity. When you see a Leo, you know you're looking at Leo because they just got this concentrated, fiery, lion-like identity. You know, and then you go further with it, and you got the utilizing. Already said, well, you don't have to mix these in the order that they are. Like I just used utilizing with vitality, and down here vitality was second, and utilizing was fourth. So you can just mix them. Empowering inspiration. You know, that's what Leos do. They're the sign of royalty. You know, they empower inspiration. So let's go to Earth. What are the Earths? The Earths we have.
What were the fire signs?
Fire. Yes. The fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And now we're going to the Earth signs, and the Earth signs are Taurus, and Virgo, and Capricorn. So Earth is about, what's the first thing you think of Earth? Nature. Yeah. Nature is about getting out in nature. And then what's next? Why did I put resources next? Because when you get out in nature, what do you see? Lots of resources. You know, like, and nature does resource you too. You feel resourced. You go, wow, I'm back to the source. This is where we all started, out here, a bunch of cavemen sitting on a rock. talking about stories about the sky was their movie theater, you know? And so once you got your resources, then people start to ascribe values to them, right? This is the earth sign part of values. This is where the Taurus start talking about the price of coal, you know? Is that a value? Ooh, I can make money out of this. But nature, resources, values, and once you have values, and you can think of it as moral values too, or you know, you have structures put in place. You know? And whether you're valuing a spiritual discipline like the Buddha did in his meditation, his structure was the fourfold path. He goes, it's very easy. Life is suffering. All suffering is caused by desire. And so we must eliminate false desire and harness true soul desire. You know? So he had a structure. He taught a structure that helped him work his value, because he got out in nature and said, you know what, I got all this wealth and it means nothing to me. There's poor people out here. You know, he went and walked around with his bull for a while. So, because he got out in nature. He went back to the tree and attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, you know, after 49 days. I get it now. People were like, wow, what's so special about you? Why are you so different than the average person? He goes, I am awake. I am awake. You know? And Earth has that sense of just like being aware of just like being here now. And then the last one, you have life. You know? I mean, you can walk down the street and show that we're over materialized in this culture over Earth, because there's too many structures, you know, governing life. You can't even walk out your door anymore without filling out an insurance form. It's like, oh, there's so much red tape in this society. So we're too attached to this element. So that's why we resist change, because we're resisting life. You know, life is about change. So when you resist change, people don't even want change at the grocery store. Like, I don't keep the change. You know, you gotta have change to have life.
What about when you anger, overindulgence, and narcissism? Do you have those for the earth sign?
Oh, the dark side, yeah. Taurus, greed. You know, too much wanting to possess. You know what I mean? And you don't have to be a Taurus to have it. You have Taurus in your chart somewhere. If you have Taurus in your 7th house, because you're Scorpio rising, you have the need to want to possess your mate, your relationships, your friends. You want you want sensual experience out of love, you know, because Taurus is about touch. You're like, touch me. Taurus is about Taurus and Scorpio are about life force moving through the body. Root chakra energies coming up. So people with Taurus rising or Scorpio rising, they just want to feel life force moving through the body, and they're all about the pleasures of life. So, and then Virgo, the dark side of Virgo is sort of like being too perfectionistic, you know, that anal retentive side. It says nitpicks, you know, fault finds on everything, and is even self-critical, self-effacement they call it. And then Capricorn is just too controlling, you know, too organized to the point where you're locked in your own structure. You know, Capricorn, the dark side of Capricorn is like control.
Atheism.
Yeah, and no belief, you know, and being too skeptical. That's the side. Capricorn is the skeptic. Tell anybody with Capricorn rising or strong Capricorn, you guys you're a skeptic, and they're like, how did you know? You know, but they always become my best students. Why? And go on and practice, because when a skeptic sees that something's for real, they're like, wow, teach me this. You know what I mean? All the Capricorn rising people I've had done their charts, they're like, I gotta learn this. You see them stumbling over themselves, like, I value this structure suddenly when I thought I didn't. Teach me, teach me, teach me. You know? And they go on to be little time lords, because Capricorn governs the future and past and time lords.
That was a big part of your movie too. A lot
That's
of
what I was
people were
gonna
saying
say.
that.
What?
Were saying that they were cynics and didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
they couldn't refute it.
Yeah, a lot of famous astrologers out there, like Gloria Starr, and the movie says right up front, like, well, I got into astrology to disprove it. The first thing you got to do if you're going to disprove something, figure out how it works. And I was like, and she goes, and first thought was, if the math is this hard, how could there be nothing to it? You know? But luckily, this class is about interpretation. We don't do the math. See, now we got computer programs to do the math. So I used to start my classes with the math, and then everybody would leave. So then I changed it to this.
I've never got into
The first half of the
Yeah. Well, now you don't have to. You just let the computers do that. Go to astro.com. All right, Air, Gemini, the sprite. In my fantasy stories, I made up my own fictional zodiac. Gemini's the sprite. Aries is the dragon. Leo is the griffin. You know, because you see those griffins on those royal shields a lot. You know. Sagittarius. What's my Sag? Oh, I have this elven archer, Meldranus. He's like. Okay. Anyway, Gemini. Libra, the artist. For Virgo, Miss Purity up here, I have the unicorn. Anyway, who likes the unicorn?
I love unicorns.
Oh, you like unicorns? And then for Scorpio, I just have the phoenix. All right, and then of course Aquarius.
What about Taurus?
Taurus, I have a big old bear, a war bear, mother bear.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Because Taurus are like mountain men. You get a guy with Taurus rising, he's like big mountain man. Gary, remember Gary at the party? Astrologer town? He's got Mars in Taurus. He's got 5 planets in Aries, but Mars, which governs anything in Aries, is in Taurus. So he's like, has that whole mountain man, you know, down to earth thing. So, awareness, ideas. So this is the awareness zone. Gotta have some mind energy. So awareness is, that's what, when you think of air and you think of the mind and mental functioning, the first thing you think of is just pure awareness, like, you know, seeing things around you. And then you get ideas and you start naming stuff, you know. You're like, oh, eraser, you know. So ideas come from just being aware, you know. And then what comes after that? Look at the sheet. Thoughts. Because when you start getting ideas, you start putting them together, you get these complete thoughts, right? You're like, oh, that's a great thought. It's like a string of ideas coming together, right? So you're having these great thoughts from these ideas, you know, that we, you know, when we're cavemen walking around, we're like, oh, rock, water, you know. So awareness, ideas, at least the thoughts. When you start getting thoughts adding up, you start getting concepts, you know. Like if I see a planet in the sky, that's a planet. If I see that planet moving, that's a thought. Whoa, planets move. And then I say, oh, it goes around the sun. That's a concept, like, oh, orbits, and, you know, it starts to get bigger. And that leads to fields of knowledge, like astrology. So the air signs are all about that. And so if your moon is in an air sign, that's what I meant by steep yourself in this ideas, knowledge, you'll feel really good. You know, if you're a water sign, it won't work. Water signs are totally different. So, do we want some shadow sign here? Gemini is trickery. You know, they're like the ones that are like, you know. Well,
they make great thieves.
Gemini and Sag, yeah, because Mercury, which is Hermes in Greek, Hermes was always called the god of thieves. But he also governed commerce and trade. That's why you have a lot of people in the commerce and trade industry that are really thieves. You know, because they can't help it. They get grabbed by the dark side of that archetype, and they just sort of like, wow, we could just shave a little bit off, nobody will notice. And then that addiction grows. The next thing you know. But corporate Enron scandals. Okay, so water we have.
Wait, the dark side of Libra and Aquarius.
Libra is indecisiveness, people pleasing. Just so plastic, you know. You might be looking at someone smiling at them, but inside you're like, I hate you. It's that vanity that comes from too much beauty, you know, like too much attachment to that kind of grace, you know. But yeah, indecisiveness. There's a joke about Libras. If you're going on a date with Libra, tell them what time you're going to be there, and just don't let them see the menu. Just order something for me because you're going to be there.
Because they can't make up their mind.
Yeah, you're going to be there for 3 hours, man.
It's like this or that.
Yeah.
Or this.
And even on the phone before the day, why don't you wear your red outfit? Yeah. Make suggestions that sound like, oh, I'm beautiful. Because then they'll be like, oh, okay. And they don't have to make up their mind. You know? See, Aries, the opposite of Libra, has the opposite problem. They're too decisive.
Right.
You know, their dark side is that anger, that impulsiveness, that, you know, that gets them in trouble because they can get really destructive. Libra is destructive in the sense like Miss Libra Moon back here. I'm gonna sneak in a McDonald's ice cream on the way home every day, and then you get candida from too much sugar in your body. You ain't fooling nobody.
What's the dark side of Aquarius?
I skipped that because I'm an Aquarius. No. Aquarius, the dark side of Aquarius is the detachment. That's not the beautiful detachment like the Buddha, but like the detachment that comes from not wanting to feel your heart too much in your head. It's the mad scientist syndrome. The alien, you feel like the outcast, the exile, the rebel, without a cause. The Aquarius is the freedom fighter, but it's also the rebel. So the rebel that just wears one purple sock and one yellow just to shock people, he's just living a low-level Aquarian life, you know. But if he steps it up and says, you know what, we're going to truly innovate, we're going to invent something, you know, that's the positive side of Aquarius. But yeah, Aquarius can be cold, detached, the cold fish, you know. They're not feeling their hearts. They got to get their head. I was like that for a long time. I was like the warrior athlete and the scientist and the sage and the astrology, but I wasn't in my heart yet. It took me to having a kid and then getting a divorce and then being a single dad and nurturing this child and at 4 a.m, feeding him his bottle, and he'd reach up at night and go, he'd be sucking his bottle and be like, Mama, Mama. So here I am, like role playing the argument of the mom, going, wow, and then feeling that unconditional love, right? And then becoming an astrologer and a counselor to people, you know, and having to sit and hear everybody's problems. That's the last thing Aquarius wants to do, you know. But it's like, and then in the session, people break down in tears, and I'm just like, it's okay. You know, not knowing how to, like, you know, deal with that. It's I'm just like the mad scientist in my equations, right? But so, yeah, so it takes a while to melt an Aquarian down into heartful living, you know.
Can you share your, you said Sprite for Gemini, and what do you usually do for that?
Oh, you mean my zodiac, my fictional zodiac?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's get to the end and I'll go through them, because I gotta see them all.
Okay.
All right, okay, so, water sign. What's the first thing you think of water?
Emotional.
Yes, but just one step before that.
Imagination.
You don't feel it until you see it, I would say. Because once you start if you imagine like a horror movie guy outside the window cutting your phone wire, like, you feel, right? I mean,
Right.
so when you start imagining things, that's when the emotions kick in. You know, you imagine a beautiful person that you like, you're like, and you feel all this desire. You know, it's like, so it all starts with imagination, with waters. It's the most strongest element. The Tao clearly states that water can stagnate the air, erode the earth, put out the fire. It doesn't look the strongest, it looks the weakest because of its ability to surrender and take the shape of its container. So water is the strongest element because it's the most patient element, and it always sinks to the lowest point. So water...
The dam breaks.
Yeah. Water is powerful, man. When water gets going, you know.
The levee breaks.
Yeah. Water. There's a saying in the Tao that says, "Why all the rivers of the earth flow to the great sea? Why is the sea so great? Because it's good at keeping low." Humility, you know. So water is imagination. See, I got some magi in there. You got to be a magi to work the water path. And then that leads to emotion or feeling. because you're having a reaction to that. And then from there, you have empathy. You know, when you feel something, you're like, oh, like those people that have the flood. You imagine losing your house and the flood coming through. You're like, oh, I feel for them. And then there's empathy, and that leads to compassion. I think these signs have the great mother, Cancer, the great mystic, Pisces, the great transformer, Scorpio. And then, you know, the therapist, Scorpio. And then, of course, finally, soul vision.
Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, that one is tough. I used to just call it soul, you know.
That's the only one I really have.
Soul vision? Okay. But still.
Imagination.
But see, soul vision, what I mean by that, like I call it Pisces, the sign of spiritual vision. And really, the journey from Cancer to Scorpio to Pisces is the journey to realizing you have a higher and a lower self, and that you have to integrate them and let the printout of consciousness, because see, the body is a printout of consciousness. It's like you learn in healing, you know. It's like, oh, if you're going to be worried all the time, you're going to give yourself cancer. You know, because you got a lot of anxiety just eating at you on those higher planes, and then they come down and to manifest. So the thing is, Cancer is about realizing you have these two sides, these two selves, this experiential self and then this visionary self that created the self in the first place. You know? And of course, to go through that, you have to go through Scorpio, a death and a rebirth symbolic. You have to transform and rebirth yourself. In religions, they call it being born again. You know, you have to put on the new mantle. You know, you have to transform, and that's when it leads to Pisces. That's when you have soul vision and a direct connection to the divine imagination. You know, in spirituality, they call it having a connection with your inner teacher, where you can go meditate. Like the reason I get all this stuff, like I've been teaching you guys, is because I go meditate and I write and I open my heart to this divine place. And I just get this stuff. It just comes. It's like, and then it's cool because when you culture and nurture that connection, you'll just be going through life and you'll get like little emails from your higher self that are just like, you need to go downtown.
Is it your higher self? Where are the emails? Is it who is behind the voice?
Well, I call it the visionary self.
So it's our.
It's like your tribe. Your tribe.
But can it be like? Is it like guides or? I hear
it's
voices all
guides.
the time.
It's guides.
It can be all.
Yeah, it's guides,
all the above.
and they can all be connected to cosmic guides. Galaxies are intelligences. You know, planets are intelligences. You know, Jupiter could be sending an email to your guide that sends you pass the message. Yeah. So water, soul vision it's a path. Not everybody can get to there, but if you look at that and see that, you know, if you look at this sheet, you say that, okay, Cancer, cardinal water is about activating soul vision, you know, to have that kind of empathy, you know, and compassion. Compassion means to suffer with. Passion means to suffer. That's the root word. That's why Scorpio is the most passionate sign of all. But they suffer for it. You know, com means with, so compassion just means to suffer with another. Hold their hand. And then, of course, Scorpio is about what? Empowering soul vision. This is when you get to the shaman level, where you're able to take on the pain of the tribe and give it up into pure light energy. That's like the Jesuses of the past, you know? Or anybody, a therapist can help someone work through their pain. Immutable, distributing soul vision. That's what Pisces is about. Pisces is about distributing imagination. That's what the filmmakers and the artists and the visionary musicians and the Beethovens, you know, the people that have this. I mean, Einstein was a Pisces, and he said imagination's more important than knowledge. See that? He said the root word for water is more important than the highest word for air. So, because water has that power, but it unites. So those are the elements in their keywords. And now we're going to get to the signs. Oh, I got to tell you my zodiac. Okay, Aries is the dragon. Taurus is the bear, the war bear, big old bear. Gemini, mother bear. Gemini is the trickster, or actually the sprite. Cancer is the whale. I chose the whale as an image of Cancer. Those deep songs that they sing in the water. Woo, yeah. And then for Leo, I chose the griffin. I was going to choose the lion again, but I was like, I need a whole new zodiac for my fantasy world. So I chose the griffin, because there is on the shields, and very lion-like regal presence. Virgo, I chose the unicorn, for its purity. You know, it's the virgin. Only a virgin can ride a unicorn, they say in the myth. So Virgo. Libra, I chose the Pegasus, you know, the winged horse, because it has grace like that, but it's an air sign, so it flies. Scorpio, I chose the phoenix, firebird. So not much different than real zodiac. Sag, I have this. I actually have Capricorn. I have as my centaur. The reason why is because my centaurs are old, wise beings, and they have more earthy energy to them. They're real strong, and so they're my Cap. But my Sag is this elven archer with the pointy ears, like Legolas. His name is Maldranus. And then Aquarius. What did I choose for Aquarius? I chose Aquarius. I chose the Titan because remember Aquarius is very Promethean, and the Titans in ancient times were like Prometheus, and so I chose the Titan for Aquarius. And then Pisces, I chose the mermaid. At first I had a seahorse, but then I went, no, let's go with the mermaid. It's more mythological. If I'm writing fantasy novels, with zodiac, and I give all my characters little astrology charts, I roll little dice. So I roll a dice. I roll a 7. Oh, he's a Libra. A Pegasus. So it's a good way to characterize your characters using astrology.
George Lucas knows any of this stuff?
George Lucas, what he did was he studied the Hero of the Thousand Faces, Joseph Campbell's work, and then he took that pattern of the hero's journey and mapped it into the Star Wars movies. And so you see all the stages of the hero's journey in the movie.
Can we have a bathroom break?
Let's have a bathroom break before we go on.
Could you do that one more time? Where's the
Yeah.
Aries is the dragon.
Aries is the dragon.
Taurus is the mother bear.
Yeah, big mother bear.
Gemini is the sprite.
Yeah, the sprite.
Libra, Pegasus.
Libra's the Pegasus.
What else? Virgo, unicorn.
Unicorn.
Well, there
Aquarius,
is
Titan.
Titan,
so many
yeah.
Pisces,
people named
mermaid.
down there.
Pisces is the mermaid, yeah.
I'm missing some.
I was going to use dolphin for Pisces too, but then I said, I went for mermaid though.
What's Scorpio?
I almost went Triton. Scorpio was the Phoenix. Firebird.
1, 2, 3. I'm still missing some.
Capricorn is a centaur.
Yeah, I've got my Capricorn, the king of the centaurs was this ancient wise centaur named
Sagittarius, do you have that one?
No.
Elven Archer.
Where's my
Did you
note?
say elephant archer?
Elven.
Elvin. You know the pointy ears?
Oh.
Let's see here.
And then Aquarius was
So
the
you enjoying
Titan.
this?
Yeah, great.
Aquarius is the Titan. Cool.
It's different than the. Oh yeah, we should push the button over there. Speed thing.
Comment.
All right.
Oh,
All right, we're going to. Yeah, ridiculosity. And she's Leo rising. She likes ridiculous people.
You can probably
I'm
really find out that
Crabtree.
side.
Oh, you know that? Okay, good. Clean up Okay. Can we have the archetypal sheet? Aries?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We're going to go through a journey through the zodiac, and we're going to look at the psychological. Wait, actually, can we put the interpretation chart number 2 up? Or this one?
Checklist?
Yeah, checklist number 2.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Okay. So this is checklist number 2. Everybody remember that one? I have one? Yeah, I have one. Okay, so I got one up
Pluto
here.
got cut off.
Okay, that's cool.
I know.
Check it out though. So what we've been learning is, can we move that up a little bit? No, I mean just if you hit that, yeah, hit that one. There you go. No, go up some more. Yeah. Oh, I see. It's on here. It's not on there. Okay. Christina, could you change this to 100%
100?
or 75?
You want 75?
Yeah, 75. There you go. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So, this is, when I do a chart for someone I've never seen before, I call it exploring your birth vision. If they come back for a update chart once per year or once every 6 months or whatever, I call it seasons of the soul. And I'm going to make another flow chart for seasons of the soul that I'll give you in class number 7, because that's about how to do a reading for someone where all the planets are moving and talking about, oh, for the next 6 months you have this potential and that and this, and here's what's happening, right? Yeah, that's the that's the beautiful use of astrology. But the other beautiful use is character analysis. And of course, I do talk about some of the evolutions, the transits and progressions, the movements of the planets during a natal chart analysis, right down here. So the theory here behind this sheet is that you can flow. You can start off with an inspiring introduction. Then you can give a little educational statement. And what I mean by that is by saying something like, the planets symbolize the characters in the story. The signs of the plot of the story. These are your motivations, your desires as a character. And then the houses are where those characters need expression in life. So that's, simple as that, Check. You know? I literally mentor people now online with this, and I have the checklist there, and I have a chart, and they don't know who the chart is, and you know they've learned all this stuff, how to say stuff about each thing, you know. And so we get to the point where I'm like, okay, and then they go through, and I just have them interpret the chart, and you know I make them aware that you know to work through each thing, and so that you know, and so when they're talking, I like put a little check. You know? And then you know they might leave some out here and there, and that's okay because you gradually learn how to go off the structure. It's like the structure's there not to inhibit you and make you rigid. The structure's there to free you up because you know there's 144 boxes on here. There's 144 cool things to talk about. It's hard to even get it into a 60-minute section, or the 80-minute CD is what I mostly do. People always say, oh, I want to save money, I want to get the 60-minute CD. I was like, nah, get the 80-minute. We got a lot to talk about. But the thing is you go to the sun, and you say something about the sun archetypal spice statement. Last time you weren't here, Peggy, or you, Tracy. We basically, the archetypal spice statement is like saying, you know, taking this sheet here, symbols of astrology, and just saying like, okay, this planet, this urge, is in this sign, in this house. So you're saying, my urge, like the sun. The sun is the urge to shine. Like what house is your sun in? Third house?
Oh, third house.
Yeah. So the urge to shine, see, check out the sheet here. It's the other one. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's the urge to shine. So the urge to shine, live, and create. And then you use this line here, is being expressed through the archetype of Pisces, unity through divine love. The archetype of the dreamer, the poet, the empath, the visionary, the mystic, the oracle. In the life experiential field, see right here, in the life experiential field of, then you go to third house, of perception, communication, learning, intelligence, environment, siblings, short trips. That's all kinds of stuff that the third house governs. So basically, you're blending them together, a planet and a sign and a house. That's the basic formula in astrology. Of course, it gets more complex when you get down here and talk about aspects to other planets, you know. Because if your Venus is square to Pluto, then yes, you're going to be talking about that aspect right here. See what I mean? You don't got to wait till step 23 to get out to Pluto. If Venus is, say, square to Pluto, you're going to be talking about that square right here. So, even though it looks like a long thing, did you find yours?
No, I'm so fascinated by everything.
Yeah?
So much and so many
Well, good.
layers.
It's deep. Your Scorpionic is going like, this is
Yeah,
exciting.
like, oh, I could
You know?
study this for my whole life.
I know, me too. That's the beautiful thing about astrology. The beautiful thing about astrology is it's a lifelong study. You keep learning. I'm 22 years on this path, and I'm writing this whole other book that I can't wait to read it myself. You know? That's how it is. It's like, wow, I can't wait to check out what I'm finding out here. You know? So it's just really cool. And like, did you watch the movie, The Special Features yet?
No, I didn't get to that yet.
Okay, the special features you're going to see in there is this one lady says, oh no, at the end of the movie when the older lady, the old lady from Canada, Chris McRae, says, you know, nobody can tell me when to quit working. She goes, as an astrologer, I can keep on working my whole life as long as people want to show up and hear what I have to say. She's cute, huh? She's like in her late 70s and she's still kicking with astrology, you know?
No ageism involved.
Yeah.
If I have Capricorn rising, should I become an astrologer? Did you say that a while ago?
I said, since they start off as being the most skeptical and then they see that there's authenticity in this art, then they become great purveyors of the wisdom, you know?
Yeah.
And so
being a Pisces, I was never skeptical of astrology.
Yeah. You're a different kind of Capricorn rising. But Capricorn rising is, you know, you're governed by Saturn, which is the time lord. So it makes you good at art forms that deal with time. You know?
Gee, my friends always used to say I was on Peggy time.
Peggy time.
Which meant I was always late.
Yeah.
Tonight I was on time, but I was at the wrong place.
Yeah, that's the Pisces archetype for you. That's the Pisces archetype for you. Okay, so.
I'll have to use that.
Yeah.
Peggy time.
So here's the archetypal
That
spice
I
statement.
was on time but at the
Oh.
wrong place.
This is the spice statement, right? What I mean by spice is just what I said. You know, oh, your sun is in this. Your Mercury, the urge to communicate, is in this sign in this house, and that's just a quick 1-3 statement. And that just kind of brings you into it, right? And then, okay, let's say you're talking about someone's sun sign, and it turns out the next thing you want to go to or can go to are the elements and modes. If they're a fire sign, now you have something to say about that. You know, you can say, oh, your sun's in Sagittarius. That's mutable fire, spiral of fire. You're here to seek your essence, and that's going to make you feel vitality. by living the path of the philosopher. See, it just becomes a poetry. It just flows. You got to learn all this stuff, how to say, the qualities. Remember we did qualities last time? The big quality diagram? Qualities? The ancient Greek, hot, cold, wet, dry. Where's the qualities again?
Moist.
Yeah, moist. Oh, here it is, right here. Qualities. Remember? So if I'm talking about someone's sun sign, and I say, you know what, the sun is hot and dry. It likes to make separations, and it likes to energize things. No wonder it's the symbol of, you know, a person's identity. Because you have to separate from other people to be an identity. Right? You have to dry out a little bit from spirit to come here. You know? Just coming into a body is drying out. You get more earthy. And then there's a spark of fire, a spark of life force. That's what we are. We're like bodies of earth with spark of life force. People die, where'd the spark of life force go? They're not, you know, they're gone. So and then of course we have all this emotion and thought too. And those come in from all these other realms. Water from that desire plane, and then air from that cosmic intelligence plane. But yeah, so if I'm talking about someone's chart, like let's say I'm talking about their Venus, and I see that their Venus is, you know, in a fire sign. Well, Venus is going to be a little hotter and drier there. So when I get to here, I can say, oh, your Venus is in a fire sign. So, you know, you have a natural love of adventure. Let's say it's Leo. You know, like Madonna has Venus in Leo. You know, drama queen. You know, it's like performer. She needed to get on a stage to feel attuned to her Venus. You know, except her rising sign's Virgo, the Virgin, with the moon there. Madonna, the moon. So she had the moon, the Madonna, the mother, right in Virgo, rising. You know. I had a girlfriend that was a Leo Virgo rising once. She drove me nuts. I was like, God, this is what it'd be like to be with Madonna. She'd be high maintenance, man. She'd be like telling me what to do. I was like, this relationship's over. But, you know.
There are rumors she's getting a divorce.
Yeah. Well, I can see why. It's tough to be that octane of person, you know. Because you got all that Virgo perfectionism and that need to analyze everything down to the core, especially Moon in Virgo. Analysis combined with Virgo rising, and then you got all that sun in the 12th house, which at first was very like, you know, like a virgin and all these pop songs, but now she's getting all doing yoga and spiritual. She's growing into her 12th house. She's finding the divine, you know.
Kabbalah, she moved to that.
Yeah, Kabbalah, all that stuff. Anyway, so this is the goal, and when you get down into this level here, you get to the cosmic principles of the archetypes. And this sheet has, in many form, what all the spiritual lessons are. Like Leo is creativity through drama and play. Aquarius, freedom through the path of individuation. So like if I see someone's sun in Aquarius, and I'm talking about their sun, I'm like, your sun's in Aquarius, blah, 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 blah. And I get to this spiritual side, I say, your vitality, your life purpose, your urge to shine is through expressing this spiritual principle, freedom through individuation. And the word individuation is a Jungian word, which means to be true to your own original core, your own unique way of being in the world, and not letting anybody tell you different, you know. So being true to your individuality. So every Aquarius struggles with that, because all life tells you got to do this. And right away, little elementary school, like, no, we don't. You know, I mean, and you should have seen me in kindergarten. There was this girl who was like the Leo princess. She was like a blonde. And she had this beautiful like truck that she got for Christmas, and she was showing it off, you know. And I got enraged. I was a little kindergarten, because I looked over and I saw the crowd just being like worshipful toward her, you know, like this, you know. And me, I'm a South Node Leo, so I know past life I was the king, and I know how I misuse my power, and I know how to use my power. And so when I saw this little girl in kindergarten, like, you know, controlling the crowd with her little material possession, I went and attacked her, and I grabbed it, and I threw it through the window, you know, and I broke the window, and everybody's like, and then she grabbed me and started pulling my hair, you know, and I like punched her and kicked her, and she kicked me and punched me, and she bit me, so we got in a spat in kindergarten, and when they pulled me out for later, and they got me in the principal's office, they said, why did you do that? I was like, no one should have that kind of power over humanity.
You said that?
People. Yeah, I said, no one should have that kind of power over the people. And I was just like, and they were like, who is this Aquarius? You know? But, you know, it got me mad, you know?
That was a big time out for you.
Yeah, big, huge time out, you know? But anyway, that's what I mean. Like, okay, if I'm doing race chart, and I get to that point where I'm like, your sun's in Scorpio, and I get to about right here, and I'm like, oh, and on the spiritual principle, if you want to have vitality in your life, guess what? You better practice this Empowerment through surrender. Render means to melt. Sur means to the highest. Letting go and letting God. You know, in other words, empowerment through coming to a place of where you're not trying to control things emotionally. You're just letting it happen, but from a deep river within, guided from within, like a shaman, like an investigator, a researcher, an alchemist, transforming the letter of the lower self into the goal of the higher self. See, you just tell the story. See, I'm already going into this part right here, mythic dimensions. I'm talking about mental storytelling about this, like the alchemist. And then the behavioral emotional is important because that's the differentiation between the light and the shadow. So if you want to be a good Scorpio, don't be obsessive and compulsive and jealous and freaky. Instead, be power. Own your power. Don't give it away. You know, so we're going to look at these, and then of course the experiential is the house. So when you look at the sun and you get to that, you're like, oh, you got to look what house it's in, you know, on the chart. And that's why I made this sheet for everybody to say. Did you get one of these? It wasn't in the folder. Okay, cool. So like if your son, what's your house, son? Oh, your son's in the 5th house. So joy, creativity, recreation, children. So your inner child's really strong. You're like young at heart, you know, because you got the sun, your heart of your chart in the 5th house of joy and fun and play, and all you want to do is play, and that's what brings you vitality, but in a very deep, scorpionic, transformative way. So you're here to play fiercely at the edge of your dreams. You know, it's like, whoa, this girl's hot. Anyway, so you feel that? Yeah. So you just tell the story, and then of course, this stuff we're going to get to in classes 4, 5, and 6, or sorry. Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and we'll skip that for now. But we're growing towards that. But what I want to talk about is just each of the archetypes, because this is where you bring in the science, the archetypes. Well, here are the houses. See, we already had a lesson on houses. You guys missed, but you know it was all about the people, places, and things in their life. You know. So let's go to Aries then. Let's go to the first sign of the zodiac, and we're going to take a little journey. A little tour. Might be blow it down to 75% maybe. So, that works. So these are some of the Aries images, and really, I'm gonna bring this whole other thing out. Let me get some white space here.
Oh, okay. Gotta make it tight.
Yeah, she's got a Virgo Mars. So, in Oriental symbology, there's always this 5-point and 5-thing phase going on. You know, the 5 elements in Chinese teachings. Well, another set of elements. So we're not talking about the chemical element table, and we're not talking about the Greek psychological elements of fire, earth, air, water, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. We're talking about, when we talk about the 5 elements in Chinese theory, you know, is, you know, fire, you know, these feed each other. You know, you've probably heard of this in some of your healing classes. Yeah, wood. I think wood is the highest because the wood feeds the fire, see? And what is the fire? Earth, because it turns into ash and feeds the earth. What does the earth do? Well, the earth solidifies and becomes metal down the road. And then the metal dissolves over time and feeds the water, the stream, you know, minerals. So you get this water.
Would Frodo enter Mordor willingly? That's how I remembered it.
Okay. Would Frodo enter Mordor willingly? I like that. And of course, the way they defeat each other. So nobody's seen this yet. This is state-of-the-art Tao of astrology. This is like, I mean, a few people have heard a couple lectures on it, but nobody. You're going to see the deal here. All right. So remember, Earth can contain the water. Water can put out the fire. So the way the star moves, that's how they defeat each other, right? Fire can melt down the metal. Metal can chop up the wood. Wood can penetrate the earth and break it up, right? So that's how these flow. And that's how Lao Tzu, the great strategist, he would plan his campaigns. Like when I come to a strategy game, when I play like my strategy games with people, I always come with like this big thing on a sheet with all these cool like notes on the side that tell you about each phase of strategy. Because what I'll do is, like, let's say, like, on the game, like, we're playing, like, Shogun, this ancient feudal Japan game, someone attacks me, right? Well, they've just done fire. Well, so the next phase they got to do is they got to consolidate and do earth and, you know, consolidate what they just conquered for me. So knowing that they're going to earth next, I'm like, thanks for attacking me, because now I know where you're going. So I know how to do wood. I gotta get, you know, penetrate, get my spies in there, get my, you know. So it's like people are always like, why can't we ever beat you at these games, Kelly? Whether it's a space exploration game or whatever, but I've like got 5 players going on, And I know exactly where they are on the cycle, and I'm planning my strategy on 5 different levels to defeat. Okay, anyway. When you have a brain like this, you got to use it, you know? And so, otherwise you go crazy and end up in a mental institution, you know? All right, so how does this relate to astrology? All right? You were in an astrology class, right?
It's feng shui.
Yeah. Okay, Aries. These archetypes, warrior, leader, initiator, adventurer, hero, light bearer, pioneer, they're all the same flavor, right? But they grow in a certain way. And I'm just going to choose a few that you'll understand here. Okay, on the first level of Aries is you have that daredevil, the risk taker, right? So you got the daredevil, risk taker archetype. Now that level of Aries is the first level. It's like fire. It just goes, rah! You know what I mean? I mean, on the harmonious side, it can be very daring, but it can be very destructive, right? Pushy and rash, like a guy standing in line. Never put an Aries in a long line. They're like, yeah, her dad has Mars in Aries. I go visit for Christmas, and we should just see him drive the car. Get out of the way, come on. He's just got to get there. Like, and then he gets home, and he's like, he's a Taurus, so he's like really peaceful. He's like, really? He sits on her deck. He's like, why would you ever want to go anywhere? You get by the car, he's like, I gotta get you now. So you can really understand the astrology, why everybody's as crazy as they are. You know? Okay, so this evolves. The daredevil eventually grows up and finds, you know, like the first guy, the risk taker, just wants to go bungee jumping. He's just like, I gotta have an experience that's just gonna bring my adrenaline up to the core, right?
Jumping trains.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. And then finally, they grow into the warrior. Now, the warrior is someone who is out there sacrificing their life on the battlefield, like warrior pose in yoga, you know. These guys are out there doing it, but they have a cause. They're fighting for something. They're not just adrenaline junkies. They have a cause. And then, you know, when you've done the warrior path for a long time, and like some of your friends are dead, and you're the last one standing, you become the leader. You grow into a leader. This is the way. This is my theory of the evolution of the archetypes. All 12 of them do this. It's really cool. So once you've led for a while, you're like, dang, you understand how you lead. You have a unique style of leadership that's unique to you, and that's when you go to this next level, which I call the humanitarian level, which in Aries is the pioneer, the true pioneer, right? You are pioneering something new for humanity, and then finally you arrive at the spiritual stage, which is the hero or the heroine, you know, the champion. So they flow like that, right? So it's a beautiful way to understand the growth of the archetype, because when someone comes in there like got a lot of Aries in them, I can tell what level they're at, and you cycle back around. You know what I mean? But here's the cool thing. When you have a low level Aries, and you want to get them moving down the path, well, what defeats them? You know, water beats. It's self-defeating. Water puts out the fire. Why? Okay, because this right here, right, is the individual level, right? Right? It's just me. It's very self-oriented. This one here is the self-caught fire. This is the individual inspired. This is the personal, right? And this is the inspired personal right here. Yeah, right today. All right. And this here is the collective. You know, you're serving a role. You're the general. You're the leader. You're in the collective. Okay, and then of course this is the inspired collective right here. Inspired collective. See, which I call the humanitarian level. You know, where you're giving to the humanity. And then of course this is the spiritual level. When the spirit descends. You know, why is wood here? Why do I put wood here? Because wood is the symbol of life. You know, wood, plants, growth. You know, so you got spirit there. So in my Tao astrology book, I'm breaking this down. And actually, I give several examples of each. You know, these like I have like leader, commander. You know, or warrior, adventurer. You know, those kinds of things. And so, in order to get this guy growing, you got to defeat him with a good pioneer. When we do Aquarius later, you're going to see up first is the rebel nonconformist. But guess what's over here? The humanitarian. And so it takes a humanitarian to get a rebel like me going. Because when I was in school, I had straight D's and F's, and I didn't care about school. I just wanted to like play D&D and like hang out in the imagination realms. And everybody's like, what are you doing? And so suddenly I got in touch with, I started reading Einstein's works, and I got in touch with a true humanitarian. And I was like blown away. And it got me going on the path. Next level of Aquarius grows into the innovator, the inventor. You start putting things together and seeing if they, So every sign has this whole process that they flow through. So it's kind of cool when you look at your little sheet here, and when it says mythic dimensions, the mental. That's what I mean by just explaining the story of that archetype. It's really healing for someone because they know where they are. And then when you get down to the behavioral emotional, that level right there, that's when you get down into this stuff over here. We need to go that way.
Why was wood spiritual?
Wood is life. Wood is plant. We can't live without the life force in the plants. Okay. Let me erase this. Erasing that. All right. So now you know why I showed you that, because the 5 elements in the Oriental tradition aren't elements in our sense. Their elements describe the flow of change. That's what their elements are about. They're about how change happens in a cycle. So they're really beautiful, but they're not archetypal elements. I mean, they are. They have their own archetypal sense, but it's about the flow of change and how change happens and how each thing defeats each other and feeds each other. So that's a whole beautiful elemental thing all by itself. For years, I tried to go fire, earth, air, water, and try to put them together, but they don't need to go together. They just are on their own. Just like you can do tarot cards and get symbols and read for that person symbols, or you can read tea leaves. Her dad actually reads tea leaves, and or you can do astrology. Astrology doesn't need tarot. Tarot doesn't need astrology. They're both fun to study, but they're independent systems. Anyway, so Aries on the good side, on the good foot. This is Aries on the good foot. Now, when I say harmonious and inharmonious, this is like Aries gone bad. Everybody has a shadow. Every sign has a shadow side, and you have all 12 signs in you. I don't care. Like me, I have Aries in my 5th house of creativity, so I can be a little selfish in my creative house. I'm like, this is my playtime. Leave me alone. You know what I mean? Wherever you have Aries, you have some headstrong, impulsive, and anger comes out. And then you also have a place, this beautiful stuff. You like adventure there. I like adventure in my 5th house of creativity. Remember, you can relate a sign to a house. In other words, like wherever that, like if there's a sign on the cusp of your 10th house, then that sign is speaking to your 10th house. See? So you can say these traits, positive and light, or positive and dark, are trying to move into that house. And the key to growth in helping someone, or even work in your own chart, is to recognize when you're stepping over into this. Because when you start noticing each time you go over there, then you can say, I need to step back over here. Because here's the theory, or it's not even a theory, here's the truth of the matter here, is that the shadow side is just the extreme of the light. You know what I mean? Like a Gemini has over here, communicative. They're great communicators over here. Overly talkative. You know what I mean? So they've taken what they're naturally good at and done it to such an extreme it's turned dark. You know what I mean? Taurus is about beauty and collecting beautiful items, then turns into greed. You know what I mean? Aries is about being bold and courageous and adventurous. But when you go too far, foolhardy. You don't think before you act. So this, look, explosive is here. But you can also be explosive in a negative way. You know what I mean? Competitive is here, but competitive is also there. There's a negative way to be in competition. Like an athlete who's just so into winning that he's like, will break the rules, hurt people, smash people. Whereas there's a beautiful competitiveness that we all love to watch. Humans striving against each other in a sport. It's just like, and everybody's there. It's like, whoa, that was awesome. But there's definitely a negative competition behind too. So these are some of the keywords in here. I'm going to print these sheets out for you next week. I've got to write all these down. Well, actually, not next week. But I meant to do it today, but somehow the printer didn't do it when I left. I said, I got the printer printing. Just go up there and feed some and it didn't happen. But I meant to give you these today. And I'm printing out sheets with the 5-pointed star thing with all the archetypes. You guys will be the first ones to see them. Yeah. Because I've shown these to classes before, like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of them. But I've been working them all out in my mind, and now they're all done. So it's like, I'm going to hit you with them. See what you like. And then also you can have a sign with a planet, right? So when a planet is in a sign, it takes on this stuff, you know? If it's Mars might, Mars in Aries, you can see why Christina's dad drives like a madman. He got his Mars, which governs this sign, in this sign. So he's definitely got that impatient thing going on, right?
So how does a sign relate to a house? Because we talked about how the planets did.
Yeah. A sign relates to a house. Okay, remember how I said the houses are the people, places, and things, the nouns? And the planets are like verbs, they're actions. Mars is desire, Venus is urge to love. So these planets are actions. So when you relate a sign to a house, it's more like an adjective, because it's something describing a people, place, and thing. Like a house, you can have a beautiful house. That's like, let's say the 4th house governs your home, right? 4th house, bottom of the chart. So if you have Libra down there, suddenly it's a beautiful home. You have Scorpio, it's more like your place of inner mystery. It's more private. You don't want people coming there. It's your place where you go for rebirth. People with Leo rising that have that. The drama queens, because they got their big palace. You're hiding in the woods.
So how do you tell which sign goes to which house?
Well, you just
see what's in your house.
Yes. Okay, so these are the houses. See one? This sign, this cusp through that house. So Scorpio's in your 1st house. Sagittarius is in your 2nd house. Capricorn is your 3rd house. Whatever the line that starts the house cuts through, that's what sign's in that house. So in your 4th house, you have Aquarius. See? Because there's number 4.
Okay.
And the cusp of number 4, this little zone here, the cusp, which is the strongest point, the divider, is the line going through the house.
The left side is the cusp?
Yeah. Well, going around, the first one you come to going around.
Okay.
So, you have Leo in the midheaven. So in the 10th house of career, no matter what, Leo's there. So you better make it playful, fun, creative, full of joy. Because you got Leo up there. The sign of children. So you want to bring that inner child up. What's wrong? In your work life, you have Aries. See? So you have Aries. You're the leader. You're the commander. You're the hero. You're the pioneer. Look at this building. You're pioneering something new.
Is the 6th house the work house?
Yeah, 6th house is the house of employment.
Oh.
10th house is the house of life calling.
Oh.
See, there's a difference between your vocation, what you're called to do spiritually, and your daily duties and work and the grind and paying the bills. And 6th house is about coping with life. Yeah?
I was just wondering if you will explain if you have 2 signs in one house.
Oh yeah, okay. There is a certain thing, like let's say you're born with, if you're born with the equinox signs rising, like Libra over here, close to Libra, your chart will be pretty balanced. But if you're born with Aries, not Aries or Libra, but if you're born with Capricorn, Cancer, close to the cusp, then your chart's usually going to be really angled over one way or the other. So you're going to have like your midheaven over here. So you're going to have these really wide houses and these really narrow houses, which is very interesting because if you think of the more north you go in latitude, the more weird the chart gets. Some people have the chart angled way over here like that. Like people born in northern England, you have these 3 little houses that are like 10 degrees each, and then these giant open spaces over here. Well, what are the houses? The houses are descriptions of how you experience life. And imagine if you're an Eskimo living in an igloo. You go in these really tight little places, and then you come out in these giant, large, wide open tundras. It's almost like their experience reflects their chart, And when the planets come by, the planets go through these houses real fast, zip, 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 and then long, deep experiences in these fields. So it's kind of cool to look at, whacked out charts like that. But I had one person that was born in like northern Alaska, and her chart was like, her midheaven was almost below her ascendant because the sun. And I was like, whoa! And I looked at her relocated chart. I said, okay, well now you've been living in this place, San Diego, for 7 years. I was like, let's look at that chart and read it and then compare it to the other one. And her life had gone more like her relocated chart because she had been attuned to that place more, And her whacked out chart wasn't as powerful. It was still a statement of her soul's mission, big time. But I'm just saying, like for her, like transits and stuff to her relocated chart, it was pretty cool. So what she's saying is that sometimes in those big wide open houses, it'll start with one sign, go through a whole other sign with no cusp, and then get to a third sign, then there'll be a cusp. And that's called an intercepted sign. Anytime you have a sign that doesn't have a cusp, one of these lines, one of these spokes of the wheel cutting through it, then you have what's called an intercepted sign. And that means that you have karmic wounding in these two houses. If it's on one side, it'll be on the other side too, because everything's symmetrical. So if you have an interception here, you'll have an interception up here. So those two houses are areas where you're working out some karma, because you don't have a grounding in there, you don't have an experiential, so that you don't get those realms very much. I have those in my third house and ninth, which is the house of insights and information and religion and philosophy. And I have Pisces over here, imagination. So I'm like imagining information into being, and then I'm trying to analyze the world's religions to come up with a new meta philosophy to bring it all together. So I have karma in there. I have to. That's the what do you call it? The yoke you wear. Is that I have to work out these religious insights. Yeah. So, anybody have an interception? Do you have an interception?
Yeah, my houses are all pretty much equal size.
They were like
Oh,
30
we don't have an interception then. Yeah. Yours are all. But see, the cusp, like your 11th house starts with Leo. I mean, the 11th house, one reading 11th house is your friends, your cosmic clique. So if Leo's there, that means they're performers, people who perform. And then Leo up here is governed by the sun. So you go look at the sun for more information. It's in Gemini. They're performers and writers, communicators. In the 9th house of foreign lands, these are my friends. So, it's symbolic, Okay, so you can apply a sign to a house. And what's really cool is you can interpret your chart. Let me see your chart again. You can go around your chart and just apply each spiritual principle of the signs to each of the houses. And if you can master all those principles in those areas of life, you'll be total enlightened sage. So, like, if we went around yours, you'd be like, you're learning the principle of, okay, look on the sheet here, Libra, right? Balance through intimacy in the house of self-expression, who you are. You're learning the principle of empowerment through surrender in the 2nd house of values and self-worth. So, so it's an intense lesson there. You're learning the principle of Sagittarius, faith through divine inspiration, in the 3rd house of perception and communication. So you're learning how to let divine inspiration filter into your communication. In the home house, the 4th house governs your home, down at the bottom. See, you're learning the principle of what? Capricorn. Ambition through integrity, bringing structure and wisdom from the heart and from the home, So, in the 5th house of creativity, you're learning Aquarius, how to be a freak like me, Like, take the road less traveled, rebel. So you can just go around and map out all your spiritual principles for all your houses and go, wow, if I could live those to the fullest, I'd be jamming. That's like when I wrote this book, because I spelled out all those principles in here in the sign. Like, here's Virgo, but the shadow side, anal retentiveness, self-effacement, and excessive criticism. But the spiritual principle, process. Not only it can attain anything, you break it down the steps. But so, they grew. But then when you get back here to the back, it's like, okay, apply all these spiritual principles to those houses. I forgot what it is, but it's in there. And then by the end, I wrote these last 3 chapters in that book about, if we knew all this stuff, how can we create a spiritual community based on these cosmic principles? So the last 3 chapters are a vision I have of creating a communal university, and it's like a rainbow gathering happening all the time, Rainbow Village, Rainbow U, and it's like so cool because it's just like the zodiac has such tremendous principles and insights for how we should structure society to make it maximum beautiful, efficient, and flowing with the stars. And I was like, wow, when I got that vision, I was like, that's cool. But I'm still waiting for somebody to donate 400 acres so I can build my Stonehenge at the center. But anyway, so you can apply science to houses. So that's cool.
Oh, you have 2 signs. You have one at the beginning and one at the end of each house.
Yeah, good point. Good
you
point.
go by the first one, or
well, check it out. Check it out. When let's say this is your rising sign, and you have the ascendant, the horizon there. This is the horizon. And so whatever sign this is, that's your rising sign, right? Like in my case, it's Sagittarius. And then I have Capricorn as the next sign. My 2nd house cusp doesn't hit till like 23 Capricorn. So what she's saying is like, look, in your 1st house, you have a lot of Sag, but also a lot of Capricorn. You have 2 signs in there.
Yeah.
So what that means is, in that field of life, you kind of flow between those signs. So when you first meet me, you're like, man, this guy's Mr. Enthusiasm. Look at all that Sag. He's like a horse. He even looks like a horse. And then next thing you know, you go, oh, but look, he gets real serious real quick. Capricorn. Talking about wisdom and serious structure. And then I go back to Sag. Hey! And then I go back to hey. Hey! Hey! You know? So you go between the two signs.